The demon Lord Tartarus stands victorious over the ashes of humanity, declaring the last human has fallen. Zephyr gasps for air, his body broken after a year-long war that ended with the world itself. He's not just fighting any demon, he's facing Tartarus, the monarch of demons himself, and he's lost. Tartarus mocks Zephyr's pain and slows time itself just to savor this moment longer. For the first time in ages, a human actually managed to bother him. Tartarus almost respects Zephyr's stubbornness. Then comes the offer. Join forces, conquer other worlds, even the god's home. Power beyond imagination. Zephyr's body is completely shattered. There's no healing this damage, no coming back to how he was. For a moment, he considers it. It's not a bad offer, but that thought alone feels like nonsense. Then he sees through it. This isn't mercy. It's just another way to make him beg for his life in front of everyone he lost. Tartarus reaches down, offering a hand to the broken hero, but Zephyr sees through the gesture for what it really is. He remembers a queen's voice scolding him for his awful personality and constant cursing, and the spells she placed on him when he wouldn't listen. The moment his hand touches Tartarus, that spell detonates, unleashing power that transcends their entire realm. The demon lord's hand explodes in a cataclysmic burst of energy, and Zephyr screams with every ounce of rage he has left. Tartarus stares at his hand, and for the first time in centuries, he doesn't understand what just happened. The power coursing through him isn't from this world. It's something ancient, something that shouldn't exist in a human. His rage explodes as he realizes a damned human just dishonored him with power beyond comprehension. The spell tears through his body, and Tartarus screams. But Zephyr's final act isn't over yet. But death wasn't the end for Zephyr. His hand twitches, fingers curling as consciousness drags him back from the void. He's alive somehow! Every wound sealed, armor pristine, like that explosion never even touched him. But where the hell is he? Kneeling in some impossible cathedral, surrounded by statues of gods that shouldn't exist. Before he can process it, wings unfurl and light floods the chamber. An angel descends, and Zephyr knows this isn't the underworld. Mercedes introduces herself as the god's representative, and she's about to drop a truth that'll make any sane man question reality. The three great gods demanded it. Zephyr's getting sent back to the past, memories intact but power stripped to zero. No skills, no magic, no physique. Just his mind and a second chance to change what went wrong. Mercedes thinks he'll climb back up fast, but Zephyr's silence says he's already planning something far more dangerous. Zephyr's mind races through possibilities. Hallucination, delusion, death throes. But the cold reality is settling in. He remembers the gods abandoning their world, cutting off healing magic, letting humanity die. These calculative bastards wouldn't give a second chance for free. Mercedes demands he show them something interesting, and Zephyr's blood runs cold. The gods aren't benevolent, they're bored. 5 years of fighting demon armies, watching his world end, and the gods call it worth watching. His entire existence was entertainment for them. Mercedes floats above him, wings spread, demanding more spectacle. Like a child asking for a circus show while the world burns. The truth hits like a physical blow. All that suffering, all those deaths, just a 5-year reality show for immortal gods. Zephyr's rage explodes into action, blue energy surging around him as he charges. 5 years of hell, and they call it entertainment? He screams at them, cursing the bastards who watched humanity die for their amusement. Was his entire life just a spectacle? Every fallen comrade, every desperate battle, every moment of hope, reduced to worth watching. The gods treated their world like a damn TV show. Zephyr roars, demanding if humans are just sources of entertainment. He's not fighting for survival anymore. He's fighting for dignity. Mercedes doesn't even flinch. She raises her hand, golden magic forming with casual precision. Like swatting a fly, a massive divine hand descends, crushing Zephyr's attack before he even gets close. The gap between mortal and god isn't just wide, it's infinite. Zephyr hits the ground hard, energy dissipating as he's pinned. His rage, his power, his dignity, all meaningless against divine authority. The pressure is unbearable, his body crushed under godly force. He wanted answers, but the gods don't negotiate with their entertainment. Mercedes doesn't even break a sweat as she crushes Zephyr's attack like it's nothing. She drops the truth bomb. Gods don't care about humans. They only care about Zephyr as their personal show. Want something from the gods? Prove your worth. That's the only currency they accept. Then out of nowhere, Tartarus, the demon god who's destroyed 10 worlds, starts screaming like he just got his food order wrong. Mercedes asks if Zephyr understands the damage he's done to a god's pride. Yeah, that's a real thing apparently. Now Tartarus wants a rematch for a complete victory, because apparently one punch wasn't enough to satisfy his ego. Mercedes starts the transfer, giving Zephyr returner privileges and time to regain his strength. Zephyr knows he's being used by disgusting gods, but he's taking this opportunity for his own revenge. Mercedes sends Zephyr through the portal, coordinates locked for his new battlefield. The dimensional rift swallows him whole, and just like that, the gods' entertainment show begins. Zephyr wakes up with a start. Someone's boot inches from his face, and he's back in the game. He's surrounded by rough-looking guys, and Zephyr's memory starts clicking into place. That stigma on their chest? Temple slaves. He's seen this mark before, way too many times. The realization hits him like a truck, and he starts laughing through the pain. 10 to 20 years back when he was nothing but a temple slave with a pickaxe and a death wish. A captain barks orders, breaks over, and these slaves scramble back to work like trained dogs. Zephyr doesn't care about these guys, but something's different this time around. A kid crawls up to him, thanking him for protection. But Zephyr has no idea who this brat is. 10 years later, the details are fuzzy, but Zephyr remembers one thing for sure: returner privilege. Mercedes told him to say, "Unlock privilege," whenever he needed it. So, Zephyr decides to test if this angel actually keeps her word. The moment he activates it, golden energy explodes around him, like the system itself is waking up from a decade-long nap. His eyes go wide because he's feeling something he never felt before. The gods are actually handing him power without asking for anything in return. That's when the realization hits him hard. They're not just helping him survive, they're arming him for war, and he's about to use every single weapon. The other miners are staring at Zephyr like he's possessed. This rookie is breaking all the records on his first day. But Zephyr isn't even thinking about the work. He's still trying to process what just happened when he activated that privilege. The moment he said unlock perks, golden energy flooded his system, and suddenly his head was exploding with information. 9 perks, 9 top-class skills, items, and abilities that were supposed to take years to unlock, just dumped into his brain all at once. And here's the kicker. The gods who barely gave him the time of day in his past life are now handing out cheat codes like they're trying to buy his forgiveness. Just as Zephyr's processing this gift from the gods, the mining captain storms over, whip in hand, ready to put the rookie in his place. The guy's been running this mine like a dictator, and he's not about to let some new guy slack off on his watch. He swings that whip like he's done it 1,000 times, but to Zephyr, it's moving in slow motion, and he catches it with his bare hands. The captain's brain short-circuits. This isn't just catching a whip. This is a guy who fought demons for a decade, catching a piece of leather like it's nothing. Zephyr apologizes and hands it back, and the captain is left standing there wondering if he just got played by a ghost. Zephyr looks at his hand. No scratches, no burns, nothing. The whip that should have left a mark didn't even break the skin. And that's when it hits him. His body isn't just restored, it's upgraded. The perks aren't just bonuses, they're a complete system overhaul. Wall of Iron, his first perk. It ignores damage below his defense stat and stops him from getting tired. Basically, he's invincible to anything weaker than him. The conditions are a bit picky, but Zephyr's been fighting for years. He knows how to work around restrictions. This skill is a game changer. With 9 perks and his knowledge of the future, Zephyr's about to turn this mine into his personal training ground. And the foreman's jaw is already on the floor. The foreman finishes the calculations, and shockingly, Zephyr's ragtag group F takes first place. The protocol is brutal. The supplies and compensation for the losers get redistributed to the winners. Zephyr walks away from the losers, knowing he just stole their meager earnings to survive another day. Hunters are basically glorified slaves who trade their lives for a slightly higher paycheck. Zephyr needed cash, and this temple nun had a solution that was so stupid, it actually worked. He signed the contract to sell his organs, but with the little clause that let him buy potions instead. The nun thought she was sending him to a lab, but Zephyr just turned her scam into a mana buffet. The hunter team arrived, looking like a squad of edgy knights who took themselves way too seriously. Leader Goda introduced his crew, Dale and Marco, expecting a weak miner to carry their luggage. Zephyr casually mentioned he had mana detection, instantly making their expensive night vision potions worthless. They dumped a massive backpack on him, assuming a miner couldn't handle the weight, which was a huge mistake. As they walked, Zephyr realized he knew these guys from his past life, and the timeline was ticking. In his memory, 2 of them would die in this very dungeon a month from now, and he was the only one who could stop it. Zephyr realized the mining expedition wasn't just about digging ore, it was the perfect hunting ground for his dead. The team arrived at the dungeon entrance, greeted by the waiting team, a support squad that handled safety protocols. They tied a magic bracelet to Zephyr's wrist, a failsafe that would snap and summon backup if he got into trouble. Zephyr smiled, knowing he had a pretty good idea on how to use these kids for his own gain. The group ventured deeper into the dark tunnel, the air growing colder and heavier with every step. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a pair of jackals, monsters that looked like they were scavenging for food. One of the miners threw a rock to distract them, buying just enough time for the waiting team to move in. The waiting team struck without hesitation, their blades finding the monster's weak points with surgical precision. It was a clean kill, the kind of efficiency that only comes from years of training and experience. The jackals fell, their bodies hitting the ground with a thud that echoed through the cavern. Zephyr pointed at the dead monsters, explaining that they were the last survivors of a previous attack on the mine. He knew their names, Dale and Marco, and he knew exactly how much their hides were worth on the black market. While Zephyr was busy calculating profits, a group of adventurers was eyeing the same mine. The leader was ready to dive in, but his mage was screaming that they were a joke of a team. Goda, the leader, tried to calm the nerves, asking for a plan to prove they could handle the dungeon. Goda pulled out hazelnut leaves, mixing them with kobold remnants to create a synthetic female pheromone. It worked like a charm, luring a lust-crazed monster right into a spike pit. The team cheered, impressed by the leader's experience, unaware that the dungeon was practically empty. Goda recognized the technique immediately, admitting he learned it from a teammate in his first life. Zephyr dropped the bombshell, revealing he had already scouted the place and found it crawling with weaklings. He offered the team a choice: stick to their slow method or let him handle it, leaving the decision in their hands. Goda decides to clear the dungeon as a personal favor, realizing Zephyr's plan was to get him to do the heavy lifting for free. He plants his spear in the earth, marking the dungeon as cleared, not because he needed the money, but because the kid earned his respect. The team moves through the tunnels, confident and relaxed, believing the threat is completely neutralized. But Dale spots something wrong. Skeletons that don't match the kobolds. Before he can process the anomaly, something invisible tears through the darkness. A massive claw rips through the air and impales Dale, launching him across the tunnel like a rag doll. 1 second he's investigating, the next he's dead. No warning, no fight, just instant deletion from existence. Marco screams for everyone to get back and slams his hammer down, activating a mana shield capable of blocking an orc chief's strongest attack. The monster strikes with such force that the magical barrier doesn't even flicker. It just shatters like glass. Marco's confidence evaporates instantly. This isn't just a monster, it's a force of nature that ignores their defenses. The creature swings again, and Marco goes down just as fast as Dale. No struggle, no second chance. Goda stares in horror, realizing his team's skills are meaningless against something this powerful. The sheer scale of the monster's power crashes down on them, and Goda knows there's no way out of this alive. The monster didn't just kill Marco and Dale, it erased them from existence in a single brutal swing. Outside, Gerda feels the magic bracelet snap one by one. 3 friends, 3 deaths, all in the span of a heartbeat. But Zephyr? He's still standing. His Will of Iron perk just tanked a hit that would have vaporized a normal human. He checks his arm and realizes the skill didn't block everything. This thing is strong enough to bleed a max level tank. Zephyr stares down the beast and recognizes the species immediately. It's a predator, a monster that tricks others into raising it before eating them. It uses pheromones to blend in, then kills its own parents the moment it matures. It's the ultimate backstabber of the monster world. Goda tries to stop him, screaming that Zephyr is crazy for going in there alone, but Zephyr just grabs his spear. He snaps the weapon out of Gerda's grip like it's made of paper, leaving the coward shaking in his boots. Zephyr realizes the silver key is a subspace artifact, a cheat item that lets him store and retrieve anything instantly. He grabs the spear and tells the hunters to back off, because this fight is about to get messy. Goda screams that Zephyr isn't even a combatant, but Zephyr just stands there weapon in hand, ready to prove him wrong. Zephyr unleashes the fear skill, paralyzing the beast with pure terror before it can even strike. Goda watches in horror, remembering a story about an adult predator that wiped out a village without anyone being able to blink. He remembers the sheer size of the monster, a creature so terrifying it left the entire village frozen in place. Zephyr pulls out a vial of burial poison, a special recipe from his old friend Fade, designed to kill even the strongest monsters. He thrusts the spear forward, hoping that this poison can kill one more piece of trash and save one more person. Zephyr didn't hesitate. He drove the burial poison straight into the beast's neck. It's a cheap recipe made from common herbs, but it turns organs into mush from the inside. The monster has 3 minutes before it dies, but Zephyr has to stay alive until then. When the beast's tail snapped his spear, he just grabbed a dagger and said, "Take one more." But the monster was too tough. Zephyr realized he couldn't pierce the skull with just steel. He rained daggers down on the beast, but it was still screaming and fighting back. His body was shaking, not from fear, but because he needed one more hit to end it. He stood over the dying beast, broken weapon in hand, knowing he had to go bigger. He remembered why he returned to the past. His body was stronger, but he needed more mana. He activated Vision of Hermes, a perk that multiplies potion effects by 500%. He chugged recovery water until his veins glowed blue, flooding his system with pure magic power. He poured that overflowing mana into the broken spear shaft, ready to discharge a beam that would split the skull. That beam didn't just hit the target, it erased the concept of the target from existence. Goda survives the shockwave, laughing at the sheer waste of talent in front of him. He stomps the ground, frustrated that a guy with this much power is stuck working a pickaxe. Goda thinks he's found a diamond in the rough, but the system says Zephyr is just a miner. Zephyr steps out of the smoke, realizing he doesn't need permission. He just needs to be the key. He stares down the arrogant leader and demands a private chat, because he's about to change the rules. Sahaku is on his knees, screaming that it's a misunderstanding, but his colleague Sahaku isn't buying it. The hooded executioner just smiles, orders the hit, and swings the chain without a second thought. But the real nightmare isn't the death. It's what crawls out of the corpse, a parasitic centipede. Back in the office, Matthias is getting chewed out for slaughtering 7 men just to find 1 worm. His superior drops the real bomb. If one is infected, the rest of the temple is likely already compromised. With the raid only a month away, Matthias is told to clean this up fast or face the consequences. Meanwhile, Gota is at the Department of Human Resources, trying to pull Zephyr from the mining team. The clerk warns him that if Zephyr messes up, Gota's entire team rating takes the hit, but Gota doesn't care. Gota is practically drooling, seeing a freebie where a miner does the dirty work while he gets the glory. But Zephyr isn't doing this out of the kindness of his heart. He's cutting a deal to handle the predator's body himself. He tells Gota to take the cobalt loot and report it as a simple lair raid, leaving the high-value predator for Zephyr to dispose of. With the paperwork signed, Zephyr is officially transferred to the hunting team, a move that would normally be impossible for a miner. In his past life, he missed the cutoff and couldn't join the raid, but this time, he has a plan to secure a spot. Just as they're about to head to the supply depot, a group of terrifying figures approaches, forcing everyone to bow their heads in submission. Zephyr's presence flares up, a massive blue aura that screams high-level expert, but he keeps it contained just enough to avoid a scene. Goda whispers that these are the heresy examiners, the direct slaves of the examiner, who are known to maul people without reason. Just as we thought things were quiet, the real wolves show up, the heresy examiners, led by the infamous mad dog Sahaku. This guy doesn't care about rank or protocol. He locks on to Zephyr like a heat-seeking missile and demands his identity. Goda tries to step in and play hero, but Sahaku literally glows red and tells him to shut the hell up. Then he drops a murderous aura so heavy it feels like the air just turned into lead, crushing everyone around him. Goda is practically foaming at the mouth, terrified. But Zephyr? He's just standing there like he's waiting for a bus. Sahaku realizes that for anyone else, this pressure would be fatal. But Zephyr isn't even flinching. He calls it unnatural because Zephyr's presence is too perfect, too controlled, and definitely not from a normal miner. Instead of running, the mad dog grins like a kid in a candy store, deciding this expert is definitely worth capturing. He demands honest answers, but Zephyr just looks at him with pure disgust, wondering why this pathetic loser crawled out of his hole. Goda realizes he's not looking at a victim, but a predator who just decided to play nice. Sahaku corners Zephyr in the town square, demanding answers about something only a few would know about. Zephyr doesn't flinch. He's heard this question before, and he knows the answer better than anyone alive. The demon god worshippers weren't just cultists, they were the traitors who doomed humanity in the final war. Sahaku works for Lord Marches of the Heretics Inquisitors, hunting down these very cultists with deadly precision. His instincts scream that Zephyr is dangerous, but he has no idea just how right he is. Sahaku draws his blade, warning Zephyr that every word he speaks can be used against him. But Zephyr interrupts him with a polite request. He wants to ask something first. He suggests they move locations, pointing out the dozens of eyes watching their little show. Zephyr dares Sahaku to maintain his honor if anything unfortunate happens right here, right now. The Inquisitor laughs, realizing Zephyr thinks he can take on 5 men by himself. Sahaku embraces the challenge, feeling pride in his work as he channels his magical energy. A massive red magic circle erupts beneath them, sealing the area with an ancient spell. Red field buffs all allies within its range while draining the effectiveness of their enemies. Zephyr's eyes light up with genuine interest. Finally, someone who can actually put up a fight. Zephyr settles into a stance that makes absolutely no sense to anyone watching. The Inquisitor thinks he's already won, activating Red Field to buff his allies and drain Zephyr. He screams that there's no use resisting, believing his speed inside the field is unbeatable. The Inquisitor accelerates to a blur, but Zephyr just stands there and catches the blade. He stops the attack cold, proving his raw stats completely ignore the magical advantage. The Inquisitor tries a kick, only to realize he's just kicking a steel pipe. Zephyr doesn't hesitate, driving a punch straight into the Inquisitor's chest. The sword shatters and the man hits the ground, realizing his buffs meant nothing. Just as the dust settles, a voice screams a warning from the right flank. Zephyr barely raises his arm to block, but the impact sends a chill through his body. Before Zephyr could recover, a massive flail came screaming in from the right flank. The new guy, Redfield, wanted to play, but Zephyr just told him to find a pet to raise. Redfield responded by smashing the ground, sending a hail of shrapnel flying. But Zephyr was already gone, dodging and blocking everything with God-given reflexes. The crowd started cheering, realizing that if Zephyr won, they could all just leave. But while Zephyr was dodging, a problem was brewing. Plenty of time had already passed. His body couldn't handle his full power for long, so he had to end this fast. He activated a new ability, a red field that would make him stronger the longer the fight went on. Now, with time on his side, Zephyr stopped dodging and started hunting. He launched a counterattack, and the real fight was just beginning. The speedster villain thinks he's got the upper hand, his red field boosting his abilities by 80%. He's laughing, convinced his speed makes him invisible, but Zephyr isn't even flinching. Before the villain can even process the opening, Zephyr's hand shoots out and clamps onto his head. The speedster is freaking out internally, realizing all that extra speed meant nothing against Zephyr's raw power. Zephyr just smirks and tells him he should have found a steadier tank if he wanted to brag about his speed. The big guy, the supposed tank, finally shows up, yelling and pulling on his chain like he's going to do something. Zephyr just calls him out, asking why he's been messing around instead of actually tanking. He asks if the tank is scared of close-range fights, his eyes burning with cold fury. Zephyr says that in his past life, he would have taught a lesson to subordinates who manage their teams this poorly, and now he's about to do just that. Zephyr doesn't bother with fancy techniques. He just channels raw magic into his chains and lets the system do the work. The tank's unbreakable restraints? Shattered in a heartbeat. Zephyr's strike hits like a freight train, sending the brute flying. One hit. That's all it took. The guards stand frozen, realizing they're not fighting a miner. They're fighting something that shouldn't exist. The tank crawls through the dust, desperate to understand what monster he just faced. "What are you?" he gasps. Zephyr just smirks. He'd expected something more impressive than, "Who the hell are you?" from a man who thought he was in control. Unfortunately for the tank, he's already lost the right to know the answer. Some secrets die with their keepers. But someone else saw the whole show. From a high window, a red-haired figure watches Zephyr walk away. Recognition hits like a lightning bolt. That face? It can't be. The odds are impossible. Unless someone sent him. Unless this was planned. And if that's true, then Zephyr's not just a loose end, he's a weapon aimed right at their door. Sahat is down and out, but Zephyr's victory lap is cut short by a familiar problem. He knows he's completed step 1 of his plan, but now he's worried about the consequences. His body betrays him. Fingers won't move, muscles scream, and his mana is completely drained. This isn't just exhaustion. It's mana freezing, the brutal side effect of pushing beyond your limits. Zephyr curses himself for using that technique too soon, realizing his old body can't handle his new power. Before Zephyr can recover, something far more dangerous than mana depletion comes calling. The spirit Shylock appears, acting as the loan shark for the god of Lone Uzra. Zephyr realizes Wall of Iron isn't just a defensive skill. It's a trap that's been collecting damage debt. Every hit he's taken while using the skill is now being tallied up like a loan shark's ledger. He knows Uzra was probably drooling watching his fight, and he's absolutely furious about it. The god of Lone Uzra sits on his throne, watching Zephyr's suffering with cold amusement. This isn't just a skill. It's a double-edged sword that feeds on human destruction. Shylock is already calculating the accumulated damages, treating Zephyr's pain like a business transaction. The debt will be collected in full when his mana hits 0, just like a loan shark's final payment. And as Shylock continues his calculations, Zephyr realizes he's made a deal with the devil himself. Shylock's calculation hits its final number, and Zephyr's body locks up like a rusted machine. The countdown begins, and every second ticks down his remaining mana. Zephyr's fingers twitch, fighting against the paralysis, but he manages to reach for the emergency recovery potion he had hidden. It's a last-ditch effort, but it's all he has. The potion hits his system, and his mana surges back to full. Zephyr stands up, a smirk on his face, and thanks Shylock for the wake-up call. Before Shylock can react, Zephyr unleashes a burst of energy that shatters the loan shark's body. It's over in an instant, but Zephyr feels a strange sense of relief. Zephyr's eyes snap open, but the world around him is wrong. He's not in the mine anymore, and his body feels heavy, like he's been dragged through hell. A sister looms over him, holding up a glowing object and demanding payment for his debt. She's not interested in excuses, only in collecting what's owed. Zephyr's hands are tied to the table, and the sister's assistant is ready to cut off his finger as payment. It's a brutal reminder of the consequences of his actions. The sister smiles, telling Zephyr that cutting off his finger will make him come to his senses. It's a cruel joke, but Zephyr knows she's serious. Zephyr's eyes widen as he recognizes the sister. It's Mercedes, the woman who had guided him through his awakening. He tries to call out to her, but his voice is hoarse. Mercedes doesn't hesitate. She orders her assistant to cut off Zephyr's finger, her expression cold and unyielding. It's a betrayal that cuts deeper than any blade. The assistant raises the knife, and Zephyr's heart sinks. He knows what's coming, but he can't stop it. It's a moment of pure helplessness. The knife comes down, and Zephyr's finger is severed. The pain is excruciating, but it's the betrayal that cuts the deepest. Mercedes has turned against him, and there's no going back. The blade stops dead in midair, halted by an invisible force that shouldn't exist. She demands to know who he really is, realizing she's been playing with fire the whole time. Zephyr just laughs in her face, telling her she grossly underestimated his preparation. He reveals he's a pro who survived a year in a world where humans went extinct. He explains that his wall of iron skill is cheap and effective, a staple for anyone rushing into a fight. Anna's blade froze midair, and for the first time, she looked genuinely scared. She demanded to know how he knew her name, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and fury. Zephyr just smiled, dropping the bomb that she wasn't just a nun, but the infamous monster broker, White Rose. Turns out, Anna Primrose of the Shrine of Light had a dark side, dealing in monster corpses and illegal info. Zephyr knew he couldn't clear a raid dungeon with the junk he had, so he decided to negotiate with the one person who could get him real gear. He told her to untie him, making it clear he wasn't going to negotiate while lying in bed like a helpless victim. Meanwhile, at the hospital, chaos was brewing as a patient was causing a scene. Sir Ned, a figure of authority, stepped into the room, his presence immediately silencing the commotion. He asked who was responsible for the ruckus, his tone calm but commanding. With a wave of his hand, he dismissed the healers, ready to deal with the problem himself. Sir Ned didn't just walk in. He walked in with a blade to Sahas's throat before the blonde could even finish his apology. Ned's voice was ice cold, asking how a man of his station dared to get beaten like a useless dog in front of the slaves. He reminded Sahash that his only talent was finding heretics, but in the last 6 months, he'd only found 2. To top it all off, Ned declared that Sahat had turned the entire holy department into a laughingstock. Sahat was on his knees, begging for one more chance, promising he'd do anything to keep his crimson uniform. Ned told him the only way to save his skin was to do what they always did: eliminate anyone who brought them shame. He tossed Sahat a wrapped package, telling him to use it for the task. Sahat unwrapped it to find a demon god worshipper's orb, the very same one from the cultist he'd captured months ago. Ned told him he didn't have the luxury of choosing his methods, forcing him to make a decision he wouldn't regret. Sahak started laughing, realizing that returning to the slaves as a failure was the same as asking to be killed by them. Sahach is having a total mental breakdown, crushing the orb in his hand as he screams about his life finally turning around. But Ned Stryer, the man pulling the strings, just laughs at the desperation. He believes people only learn when they're thrown away like trash. He's not just some low-level thug. He's a disciple of a demon god with a massive plan to infiltrate a dungeon raid and steal the Shrine of Light's power. Then he remembers Zephyr using their school's forbidden martial arts techniques, which only the master and his 4 brothers are supposed to know. Ned decides he can't risk a leak, so he's going to use the captured Sahash to test Zephyr's loyalty. If he's not one of them, he's just another body to eliminate. Meanwhile, Zephyr and Mercedes are standing over the massive defeated monster, the dust just starting to settle. Mercedes is trying to process what she just saw, admitting she thought he was just crazy before, but this is actually incredible. She quickly organizes a shopping list for the cure: advanced holy enchanters, a miracle rosary, and rare herbs like Blessed Sun's herb and Moon's herb. But then she drops the bombshell. The total cost is a staggering 5,000 gold, which means Zephyr is going to have to hunt 3 more of these predators. He's got the power now, and he's about to turn this mine into a hunting ground where monsters pay the price. 5,000 gold is a mountain of cash, but Gerda thinks a cheap dinner party will solve the problem. Gerda tries to introduce Zephyr as the exciting newbie, but Zephyr's looking at them like they're already dead. The team is sweating bullets, wondering if they offended him with the bread and cheese, but honestly, the vibe is just awkward. Zephyr decides to stop the pity party and slams a golden flask on the table, declaring he doesn't drink horse piss. The team freaks out because that's White Rose alcohol, a luxury slaves can't even dream of, let alone afford. He pours shots and instantly buys their loyalty, proving that in this world, gold talks and cheap beer shuts up. With the ice broken, Zephyr starts analyzing the roster, knowing exactly how to handle Gerda since he remembers him from his past life. But the other two were wild cards who didn't exist in the future, forcing him to decide if they're assets or liabilities to be removed. He knows the rules of the world, but he's also the exception to them, and he's about to turn this ragtag group into a gold-making machine. Zephyr makes his position crystal clear. He doesn't play nice with people who keep trying to fight him. Goda's internal monologue is brutally honest. He doesn't like this bastard one bit. The leader dismisses Zephyr's predator kill as pure luck, refusing to believe a miner could do what they couldn't. Goda's frustration boils over as he crushes his wine glass, calling Zephyr an idiotic bastard while his teammates try to calm him down. But Zephyr's not buying Gerda's act either. He declares he doesn't trust the leader and questions how dare he try to make himself a spot in Zephyr's ranks. The squad heads out toward Cavetown Edeline, thinking they're just doing a routine dungeon run. This town was carved into mountains hundreds of years ago, built as a safe haven for travelers. The newer members are impressed, marveling at houses built directly into the rock face. One of them even mentions staying there as a newbie, completely unaware that Zephyr knows this place has become a death trap. But Zephyr knows the truth. This once safe location is now a nest of monsters, and he's about to ask why they're walking into a death trap. He activates mana detection, spreading his awareness through the ground to sense every object, movement, and magical signature in the area. The skill lets him feel everything as if he's touching it directly, giving him complete tactical awareness of the cave. His detection confirms the worst. A black steel spider is lurking inside, and the squad's about to find out what that means. With the threat confirmed, Zephyr takes control and lays out their plan. Time to see if Gerda's squad can actually follow orders. Zephyr maps out a clean route, avoid the webs, poison the nest, and walk away with the payout. But Gerda's already sweating bullets, screaming that 4 people can't possibly clear a black steel spider nest. He's not wrong. These things have steel-hard shells, insane defense, and they breed faster than you can kill them. Zephyr just smirks and says he can handle it alone, leaving Gerda stunned into silence. Gerda doesn't buy it for a second. He's convinced Zephyr's just another fraud trying to steal the bounty. So he tails the guy, planning to catch him in the act and expose the whole scam. But his careful approach lasts exactly 3 seconds before he steps right into a web. The whole nest wakes up, and suddenly, Gerda's got a dozen razor-legged spiders diving at his face. Zephyr hears the chaos and knows exactly what went wrong. Gerda's arrogance just cost him his life. He moves faster than the spiders can react, grabbing Gerda and yanking him out of the kill zone in one motion. Then he slams his hand down, crushing the lead spider like it's nothing, proving he's not bluffing. Zephyr realizes he needs to clear the whole room at once, charging up a blast that's going to turn this cave into a crematorium. The dust settles and Gerda's squad is still breathing. Barely. They're covered in spider silk and wondering if they actually survived. Gerda's shoulder is bleeding through his armor, and for the first time, he's admitting he messed up. That deep wound is a reminder that even veterans get caught off guard. And then, Zephyr does something unexpected. He offers a potion. Not a flashy spell, just a simple bottle of medicinal water that should work just as well. Gerda's furious that he needed help from the miner he was just mocking. But Zephyr? He's just sitting there like this is Tuesday. Pretty normal for me, he says, which is either confidence or he's hiding something massive. Zephyr's strategy kicks in. He tells Gerda to aim for the stomach, not the armored back. The spider's weak point is exposed, and Gerda's blade finds it. The squad notices the spider's movement slowing down. The potion's working, and suddenly, they're not just surviving, they're winning. Dale's swinging his weapon like he's got the upper hand. Gerda's internal monologue is a mess of realization. Everything Zephyr said was right. The habits, the weaknesses, the exact spot to strike. This isn't luck, this is knowledge. Gerda's face goes from confident to terrified in one panel. What is he? He thinks, realizing the miner knows more about these monsters than any hunter should. That's when the real fear sets in. The spider's down and the squad's celebrating like they just won a lottery. Nice one, Dale. They're saying completely unaware that Zephyr's the one who actually won this fight. They think they got lucky. The squad's celebrating like they just won the lottery, but Zephyr's already sitting on the carcass like it's a throne. Goat is desperate for answers. Asks Zephyr what he used to do, and Zephyr drops the bomb, "I was an explorer." Dale's curiosity is piqued, but Zephyr's not done. There's something darker behind that answer. Before that, flashback to Zephyr sweating bullets in a cave, training under a hooded figure who's got glowing yellow eyes. That master's eyes are locked on him. Not judging, not teaching, just waiting. Zephyr's eye says it all. He's not just trained. He's been forged. Back to the present. Guta's squad's ready to move to the boss room, but Zephyr's got other plans. He rips a green crystal from the spider's corpse, then wields its leg like a scythe. That's not loot, that's a weapon. And then he drops the hammer. This is as far as you go. All of you, get out now. The squad's faces? Priceless. 4 years as a hunter, and Zephyr still breathing while everyone else turned to corpses. His secret? Never stepping on a bridge that looked like it'd snap under a sneeze. He followed stronger hunters like a duckling, took the hits meant for him, and somehow lived to tell the tale. Back in the present, Zephyr tells the squad to clear out before the boss room. But Marco's got other ideas. He's begging to stay, and Dale's right behind him. The squad's screaming that they'll die if they push forward, but Zephyr's already made his call. Zephyr smiles and tells them they're not useless. He's got jobs for everyone. He walks through the web choke tunnel, heading straight for the queen spider's breeding chamber. Almost there. And this time, he's not running from the danger, he's walking right into it. The breeding room's packed with night spiders guarding the queen's eggs. This is a nightmare scenario. These bodyguards are built like living armor, and they're not going to let anyone near their master. And there she is, the queen spider herself, massive and surrounded by her offspring. Zephyr's about to make some serious cash. Zephyr's eyes lock on to the breeding room. He's not here to negotiate, he's here to harvest. The night spiders form an impenetrable wall around their queen. Their armor thick enough to shrug off most attacks, but Zephyr's already calculated the variables. He pulls out a silver key and some ordinary flour, because sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a sword, it's kitchen supplies. He hurls the flour into the air, creating a thick cloud that would make any baker proud. Except, this one's about to get everyone killed. His crossbow glows with blue energy as he loads a flame arrow, because why use one type of destruction when you can combine them? The arrow hits dead center, and suddenly, the entire chamber becomes an oven. The flour particles ignite in a chain reaction that turns air into fire. The explosion is so violent it tears through the breeding room, burning everything in its path with the force of 1,000 angry suns. But these aren't your average bugs. The night spiders are tough enough to survive even that inferno, screaming in pain, but still standing. Zephyr switches tactics instantly, loading poison arrows tipped with the 72 toxins of Poison King Fade, because fire was just the appetizer. The arrows hit their marks, and now the spiders are experiencing extreme pain from multiple toxins while their armor means nothing against internal damage. That's when Zephyr knows he's about to clear this room for good. The poison arrows hit their marks, and now the spiders are experiencing extreme pain from multiple toxins, while their armor means nothing against internal damage. Zephyr explains the spiderweb mechanics to the squad. Squeeze it like a pouch, and webs shoot out. And yes, they work on spiders too, since they secrete special liquid from their legs. He knows the boss room is filled with more webs than the outside, so fighting inside means death. He needs to lure them out where he has the advantage. With the minions down, it's just the one night spider left, and Zephyr's already calculated how to take it down. Zephyr's eyes narrow. He's not just fighting a monster, he's hunting a queen. And the real test is about to begin. The night spider screams in agony, its body convulsing as the toxins burn through its system from the inside out. But before Zephyr can finish it, the ground shakes. The queen is coming, and she's not happy about her minions getting wiped out. Purple acid poison floods the tunnel, and Zephyr's already moving. He knows this isn't just acid, it's a curse that disintegrates defense and regeneration. The instructor's warning echoes in Zephyr's mind. This poison has an innate curse that melts your defenses and regeneration, and people with low magic resistance won't even have time to scream before they're gone. Dodge it for your life. That was the only advice that mattered, and Zephyr's already put it into practice. He leaps through the air as the acid splashes where he was standing, melting rock like it's nothing. That's how fast this fight could have ended. The acid hits the ground and the rock just disappears, and Zephyr's already positioning for the counterattack that'll end this thing. And just like that, Zephyr's already in the air, dodging acid that melts rock like butter. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't hesitate. He's already calculating the next move before the first one even lands. He comes down like a meteor, spear wreathed in flame, and the Predator's armor? It doesn't even slow him down. That's not just strength, that's precision. He's hitting the exact weak point every time. The thing's screaming now, actually screaming. Not the mindless roar of a beast, but the raw animal panic of something that just realized it's the prey. Zephyr didn't just wound it, he broke its confidence. And then he says it, "Come at me." Not a challenge, a statement, like he's bored. Like this whole fight was just a warm-up. The Predator's got no idea what it's dealing with. Zephyr doesn't even look at the squad when he gives the order. I'll be tanking from the front line, since the only one who can take the boss head on is me anyways. No arrogance, just facts. Goda and his team, they're frozen. Not from fear, from realization. This isn't the miner they dismissed. This is someone who's been holding back power they can't even comprehend, and he's telling them what to do. Goda grips his weapon tighter. He's been trained to lead, to command, to be the strongest in the room. But right now, he's just another soldier following orders from someone who doesn't need to explain himself. Their hearts are pounding, not from the fight, but from the weight of what they're witnessing. Zephyr's not just fighting a monster, he's rewriting the rules of what they thought was possible. And the worst part? He's barely started. Zephyr stands alone before the Black Steel Queen Spider, a boss that's ended countless adventurers before them. Goda's squad is already questioning if they can even kill something that massive. Spoiler, they can't, not without help. And then, the queen moves. Goda realizes he can't dodge. He's about to get absolutely wrecked if Zephyr doesn't step up. But Zephyr doesn't even flinch. He intercepts the queen's strike like it's nothing, his spear moving faster than Goda can track. He calls the boss an insect while blocking its attacks. The audacity is insane, but the skill backing it up? Even more insane. Goda's mind breaks trying to process this. Zephyr's blocking every single attack from a dungeon boss while Goda can't even keep up with the speed. Zephyr tells them to focus on dealing damage while he burns the eggs. The queen will stay focused on him, giving them a safe window to strike. Here's the key. The Black Steel Queen Spider has a fatal flaw. She stays in one spot to lay eggs, limiting her back leg movement. That means the space behind her legs is safe. Zephyr's been fighting spiders like this for years. He knows the pattern better than the boss knows itself. Goda finally gets it. Zephyr is aggroing all the attacks while they prepare to paralyze the queen. 5 minutes in, and they actually have a shot. The squad's fear flips to confidence. They realize they're not dead weight. They're part of a real strategy for the first time. Now, they're moving with purpose. But the queen's not going down easy. And Zephyr's about to show them what happens when you push a boss too far. The queen doesn't just tank the hit. She snaps back with claws that could shred steel like wet paper. That roar isn't just noise, it's a declaration that this thing is done playing around. Dale feels that familiar panic creeping in, the kind that makes your knees shake and your grip slip. But he remembers how far they've come and realizes running isn't an option anymore. Then he looks at Zephyr sitting on a pile of corpses, and suddenly the odds don't seem so bad. Dale's squad is done asking questions. They've trusted Zephyr this far, so they'll trust him one last time. They're screaming, "We can do it," Because if they stop talking, they might start running. The whole squad charges in, weapons drawn, ready to die for a chance at living. Goda is left standing there, realizing his authority means nothing when the monsters don't care about rank. He screams in frustration and joins the charge because staying behind is a death sentence. The plan is simple. Smash the armor, get inside, and find the soft spots. Dale yells that the outer shell is the only hard part. Everything else is vulnerable meat. The squad hammers away at the shell until it cracks open like an eggshell. Zephyr's intel was spot on. There's a nerve bundle right in the center of the leg. Dale slashes it with a blade soaked in paralyzing potion, and the queen finally goes still. Dale lands the perfect strike on the nerve bundle, paralyzing the queen's leg instantly. But the beast isn't done yet. She screams in pure maternal rage, threatening to melt their bones with acid. Zephyr doesn't flinch. He steps into the poison blast and catches her strike with a grip that screams absolute confidence. With a sickening crunch, he rips the gland out with his bare hand, silencing her venomous threats for good. Now he's airborne, wielding her own severed scythe limbs like dual blades. The queen is blind and helpless. He tells her to calm down before he ends her. That final strike isn't just a hit, it's a statement. Just as Zephyr finishes the beast, a new threat drops in, White Rose, and she's not here to say hello. She slaps the slave's engraving on him, instantly forcing him to obey, which is a bold move for someone who just got his ass kicked by him. She drags him to a quiet corner to scream at him for being a reckless idiot, shaking in fear because she knows how close he came to dying. She warns him that she can't protect him outside the temple, leaving him to wonder if he's being owned or just being managed. Flashback to a hunt where a squad of hunters is celebrating a massive kill, thinking they actually earned it. But their leader, Gota, realizes the truth. Zephyr didn't just win, he let them win, handing them the victory like it was nothing. Gota finally understands that hunting isn't about skill, it's about who's in charge, and Zephyr's the one calling the shots. He looks at Zephyr's back and realizes that if he follows this guy, he might actually survive the apocalypse. Zephyr decides to leave the queen's loot alone, since it's too obvious, but he's already planning to take the smaller spiders to sell to White Rose. Zephyr decides to leave the queen's massive corpse behind. Too much evidence. Too much heat. He tells Gota to just grab the smaller spiders, but the squad leader's already moving faster than he ever did before. The hunters are practically dancing over the monster carcass, eager to prove their worth to the man who just rewrote the rules of survival. But Zephyr's eyes stay cold. He knows this enthusiasm is cute, but it won't save them when the real monsters show up. That woman in the tower isn't just some random boss. She's a high-level threat that requires more than just enthusiasm to beat. He needs more than just manpower. He needs a way to bridge the gap between where they are and what's coming. Back at the temple, the sister is shocked to see the predator parts. She didn't think he'd actually pull it off. The transaction is smooth, but Zephyr knows the temple isn't exactly a charity. They're just buying their own safety. He drops the hammer. He's paid off nearly half his debt, and now he's requesting access to the alchemy lab. The sister gives him the pass, thinking he's just a hard-working cleaner, completely unaware of the storm he's walking into. But before he can even get to the lab, the air gets heavy, and a voice cuts through the silence. A man with red hair steps out of the shadows, claiming he has news. But Zephyr knows that tone means trouble. Zephyr doesn't waste time talking. He unleashes his aura, and the two of them clash in a burst of fire and lightning. Sahaku barely dodges the blast, his eyes widening as he realizes this isn't just a strong battle slave. Zephyr unleashes his lightning against Sahaku's fire, proving he's not here to play games. But before we see who wins, we flash back to the organization's desperate plan to get inside the Temple of Light. They've got a guy named Ned who's going to get marked as a slave to steal their loot. A move that's both genius and disgusting. Meanwhile, Gota isn't just brooding. He's making a deal with a dark entity to get the power he needs. He absorbs the monster's energy, turning his humiliation into a new, terrifying strength. He's not just angry, he's promising to make Zephyr pay 100-fold for what happened. and that's a threat we can't ignore. Goethe didn't just absorb that monster's energy. He let it consume him, twisting his body into something that shouldn't exist. His own squad became the first victims of his new power, torn apart by the very darkness he begged for. He's not just angry anymore. He's promising to make Zephyr pay 100-fold, and that's a threat we can't ignore. Those golden eyes? They're not human anymore. They're the eyes of something that's forgotten what mercy feels like. The cracks spreading across his face aren't damage. They're the price of power, and he's just getting started. Gota's panic is palpable as the monster's energy rips through his body, rewriting his very existence. He begged for this power to kill Zephyr, and now he's paying the price in a storm of blue fire and agony. The explosion clears, and what's left isn't the squad leader we knew. It's a monster standing over the bodies of his own men. While Gert's rampage is still fresh, Zephyr is already 3 steps ahead in the Temple of Light laboratory. He's not just mixing herbs. He's boiling down rotten kobold, fluid, and corpse mushrooms with Quinn Spider's poison. The result is number 61 of the 72 deadly poisons of the Poison King, Zagan. This is the kind of stuff that erases people from existence. He's got a nun babysitting him, and he's using her as a human shield against Ned's inquisitors. It's a bold move, even for him. Next, he takes a piece of Arcan tree wood, hard as metal, and shatters it with a single palm strike. The resulting splinters are perfect acupuncture needles. He calls it a medical technique, but we both know he's just building a delivery system for his poison. He dips the needles into 2 different poisons, Belial and Zagan, diluted to a precise ratio. It's a cocktail designed to kill anything. Zephyr believes poison is simple. He's right. It doesn't care about your honor or your strength. It just works. Zephyr locks eyes with the darkness, forcing his body to purge the poison before it kills him. The black veins that marked his corruption fade away, leaving his skin clear and his strength restored. While he heals, a temple recon squad is getting absolutely swarmed by a nest of gryphs that was never on the map. They realize too late that the intel was garbage, and the monsters are tearing them apart from behind. One survivor calculates he's 5 kilometers from the temple, a distance that takes 20 minutes to run. He pushes his legs to the limit, screaming as he realizes he's not going to make it. A griffin dives for the kill, and the man raises his shield for a final desperate block. But the monster never hits him, because a streak of blue light just obliterated the sky above. Zephyr lands with a shockwave that shatters the ground, his body finally free of the stigma's weight. He stares down the swarm of gryphs that were just seconds away from finishing the squad. The monsters shriek and hesitate, sensing a predator far more dangerous than the humans they were hunting. Zephyr checks the flare and realizes the reinforcements from the temple are arriving way too fast. Zephyr doesn't ask, he commands, and somehow, Gerta's body moves before his brain can catch up. The dungeon entrance spills out of Gerta's mouth like he's taking orders from a god. He didn't even realize he was doing it. 4 out of 7 of his party died in there. He was the only one who crawled out alive. And now he just sent a stranger into the same meat grinder alone. Goat is staring at the path like it's a graveyard, because that's exactly what it is. But Zephyr's already walking into it like it's a Tuesday. The boss monster, the thing that wiped out Gert's entire squad. Zephyr walks up to it like he's ordering lunch. And then, done. He exhales, cracks his knuckles, and his body feels like it's been upgraded by 2.5 times. The returner privilege isn't just giving him his old stats back, it's amplifying everything. With the right gear, he's going to be a walking apocalypse. Green flare in the sky. Emergency crisis resolved. Translation: I just soloed a dungeon boss that should have killed me. What equipment should I get next? But that flare didn't just signal the temple. It lit a beacon for things way worse. Shadows are stirring, whispers in the dark. Something's watching, something ancient, and it just felt Zephyr's power spike. The countdown started, soon. While Zephyr's catching his breath, the real power players are already moving pieces on the board. Lucius and his best friend White Rose are about to unlock a door that's been sealed for centuries. The Spear of Brilliant Light and the Winged Shield of Michael. Legendary artifacts that cost White Rose 1/3 of her entire fortune. Lucius is sweating bullets because he's seeing items he thought only existed in history books. White Rose isn't just a priest. She's got ears everywhere, and she just connected some very dangerous dots. The Persephone Assassin Guild. Legendary killers who used poison to boost their stats and never missed their target. She's convinced Zephyr is a surviving Persephone assassin, and honestly, her detective work is terrifyingly accurate. Now she's sprinting to gear up her dear customer, because nobles are paying fortunes for Persephone survivors. If White Rose spreads rumors about him, the guy she's actually hunting will come looking on his own. That's the real White Rose. She's been tracking a Persephone survivor for years, and now she thinks she found him. Dale's sweating because he thinks Zephyr's got some kind of romantic relationship with the priest. But the real drama is way darker. Zephyr's already moving, because whether he's a slave, an assassin, or just a guy with a debt, he's not letting this dungeon slip away. Zephyr's not playing by the rules this time. He's going to use Ned Streer as his ticket into the raid. Ned's the direct slave of Heresy Examiner Matthias, which means if Zephyr can fool him into giving a recommendation letter, he's in. The logic is simple. Ned received a mission he can't fail, so he won't ignore someone using their sex martial arts. Whether he thinks Zephyr's an ally or a thief, he's itching to test him. So, Zephyr decides to become a force Ned can't ignore, making an entrance that screams, "I'm not here to ask nicely." The question isn't whether Ned will notice him, but how strong Zephyr needs to be to make him take notice. That's when a voice cuts through the chaos. Someone's impressed by the entrance, and Zephyr recognizes that tone instantly. It's Sahaku, standing there like he owns the place, asking if Zephyr came alone. The last thing Zephyr wants is to play with him right now. A few days later, word spreads fast. A mid-sized cockatrice nest with a 30-meter boss was cleared by a single slave. The Temple of Light is taking notice. Both field investigations and survivor testimony match up, and it's obvious Zephyr's making himself appealing for the raid party. Senior Heresy Examiner Matthias Grimmer of the 3rd Division is already wondering if they should interrogate him to check if he's a demon god worshipper. While the 3rd Division scrambles to investigate Zephyr, Lucius Giornetti, the actual head of the Temple Knights, decides to shut it down. He tells Matthias he doesn't care if Zephyr worships demon gods as long as he's useful. That's not tolerance. That's pragmatism with a body count. The plan? Use Zephyr and other slaves to clear the path to the boss room, then eliminate them along with the monster. They're not recruiting him, they're weaponizing him. Lucius declares he'll be invincible in this raid, standing in divine light like he's already won. Spoiler, he's about to find out what invincible really means. Meanwhile, slaves are desperately training because only 2 or 3 spots are left for them in the raid. They're trying to stand out, but Zephyr's already miles ahead. Sister Rose, known as the Demon Sister for her ruthless reputation, walks out of Zephyr's room and tells him to pay his interest on time. The other slaves lose their minds. Zephyr sits on his bunk bed, casually putting on a ring she gave him. The other slaves are convinced he's been compromised by the temple. They demand to know about the ring, panicking that he's been marked or cursed. But Zephyr just smiles and says it's something he got from someone. The Ring of Purification boosts mana circulation and magic defense. Plus, it can remove curses once a day. White Rose, Naka Sister Rose, got him something that's quite good. She's got some sense, and she prepared this before he even asked. The other slaves start freaking out, convinced Zephyr just sold his soul for a shiny piece of jewelry. But this isn't just a ring. It's the Ring of Purification, a high-tier item that boosts mana circulation and blocks magic. White Rose didn't just give him a gift, she gave him a promise that she can supply whatever he needs to survive. Then the mood shifts when Zephyr pulls out a letter, and the look on his face says he already knows exactly what it is. It's a direct invitation from Ned Streer, the demon god's disciple, who is clearly trying to lure him into a trap. Instead of running, Zephyr just smiles, crumples the paper, and decides he's going to handle this mess all by himself. He hits the ground running, racing against a clock that's ticking down to the Temple Knight's raid in just 20 days. The destination is the tomb of the abominable princess, one of the 8 legendary riddles of the world. It's a graveyard for heroes, where the ruins of Medea have killed every single team that's tried to clear it for a decade. Zephyr stands before the tomb of the abominable princess, the legendary graveyard that's killed every hero who's ever dared enter. The princess herself stares back with eyes that have watched civilizations crumble, her power radiating like a dying star. But Zephyr doesn't flinch. He's been preparing for this moment, racing against a 20-day clock while every other team turned back in terror. Something ancient stirs within the ruins. A figure wreathed in crimson energy that makes the very air scream with power. And just when Zephyr thinks he's prepared for everything, he learns the hardest lesson of all. The real enemy isn't the monsters waiting inside. Dale thought he had the perfect setup. Ambush Zephyr with the cursed instrument and watch him die. But the moment he played that ocarina, he didn't summon a weapon to kill Zephyr. He woke up something that ate him instead. While Dale was getting swallowed by his own betrayal, Zephyr just stood there watching the show unfold like he'd seen this movie before. A Shoggoth, the biological weapon of demon god worshippers, and Zephyr knew exactly what he was looking at. These things hibernate as eggs and only wake up when they hear hypnotic music. Dale basically rang the dinner bell for a monster that eats everything. A mindless creature with infinite appetite that gets stronger by absorbing mana from the humans it devours. And Dale had been feeding it people. Zephyr grabbed him by the throat and asked how many lives Dale had sacrificed for his own satisfaction. The answer was around 100. Zephyr didn't waste time with speeches. He wound up a strike that would make the dragon's roar technique look like a warm-up. One punch shattered Dale's defense, and before he could even cough up blood, Zephyr's palm strike ruptured every drop in his body. The lightning generated from that impact wasn't just damage. It was the signature of a technique feared across the entire East. With Dale dead and the Shoggoth still hungry, Zephyr's attention shifted to the real problem. And it was about to get a lot more interesting. Ned's been obsessing over Zephyr for 10 straight days. And honestly, that's the first red flag that this guy's got serious issues. He's about to show off his new power with all the confidence of someone who's never been punched in the face before. But Zephyr just walks through the attack like it's nothing and calls him a dumbass, because apparently some people don't learn from their mistakes. Zephyr knows he's not alone and calls out whoever's watching, because apparently he's got a death wish. Or maybe he's just that confident. Ned doesn't just transform. He becomes this eldritch nightmare with more eyes than a horror movie villain and tentacles that look like they've seen things. The thing's so massive it's practically a boss fight, and Ned's screaming about ripping Zephyr to shreds while possessed by whatever this abomination is. Shoggoth looms over Zephyr like a walking apocalypse, and this is where most people would start questioning their life choices. Zephyr doesn't back down. He powers up with this purple energy that screams, "I've dealt with worse before breakfast." But then, he actually recognizes what Shoggoth is, and for the first time we see real shock on his face. Because this isn't just a monster, it's a problem. That look in his eyes tells you everything. He's not scared, he's calculating. And whatever comes next is going to be absolutely insane. Shoggoth's physical power is terrifying. But that's not even its worst feature. The real horror is mind corruption. Contact with this ancient thing drives you insane. At 100%, you lose all reasoning and start slaughtering everyone around you. Shoggoth laughs at Zephyr's desperation, certain the curse will finish him. But Zephyr's eyes just turned red. That's the sign of impending frenzy. The corruption's almost complete. Shoggoth thinks he's won. But Zephyr doesn't scream. He doesn't fight the corruption. He just accepts it. Ring of Purification, 1 use per day. Golden light floods through him, burning away the curse like it's nothing. Shoggoth chokes on his own laughter as the corruption vanishes. That trick shouldn't exist. Zephyr's mind drifts back. In his past life, he only cared about keeping himself and his small group alive. Thought that was enough. But now he wonders, what if they'd worked together? What if the survivors had united? Would the people he loved have lived longer? Ned's eyes narrow as he explains the secret art has only 2 successors. And if one dies, the master has no one suitable to train with. The realization hits Ned like a lightning bolt. There's no way around it. No logical explanation for what he's about to hear. But Zephyr just smirks and drops the bomb. He's the Shadow Apprentice, prepared from the start to replace whoever dies. Zephyr stands over the Shaga's remains. An instant death by electricity, a fitting end for a bastard like it. But instead of wasting his magic power, he pulls out an ocarina and starts playing a melody that shouldn't exist outside the demon god cult. The Shoggoths break down chord tears through the monster's cells, breaking the magic power connections that hold it together, and Ned's jaw hits the floor. Ned's voice cuts through the silence. He's genuinely surprised Zephyr knows that song, a secret the Temple Intelligence couldn't have obtained. The pieces click together. Ned Stryer, demon god disciple, was testing Zephyr this whole time to see if he's truly one of their worshippers. Zephyr realizes the game. If he can fool Ned and get his recommendation letter, he'll finally have access to the raid party he needs to change the future. Zephyr's mind flashes back to his master, the debt he owes fueling his resolve to change the future. Ned's smile vanishes, replaced by a cold, analytical gaze as he reveals he's been watching Zephyr the entire time. The test is over. Ned draws his blade, his voice flat as he declares Zephyr a target for elimination. Ned's sword moves faster than the eye can follow, but Zephyr doesn't flinch, his body moving with an instinct honed in a dead world. Zephyr's hand stops the blade dead, the sheer force of the impact sending a shockwave through the air. Ned's eyes widen in disbelief as he realizes every single one of his lightning-fast strikes has missed its mark. Impressed but wary, Ned concludes that Zephyr must have used some method to surpass his master's speed. Zephyr flicks a small rock at him, a silent question that cuts deeper than any insult. You're fighting an unarmed man with a sword? That simple gesture shatters Ned's composure, his eye widening as the insult hits harder than any physical blow. Zephyr's bare hand deflects the blade again, and this time, the force is enough to send the sword clattering to the ground. The two stand in a tense standoff, the air thick with the promise of a final, decisive clash. Ned taps into the Dragon King style's secret art, his body wreathed in explosive lightning as he gains a massive boost in speed and power. Ned's lightning crashes down, but Zephyr doesn't flinch. He knows this dance better than anyone. The Dragon King style's flowing cloud technique activates, wrapping Zephyr's body in defensive yang electricity. Same type electricity repels. Ned's own attack slides off Zephyr's defense like water off oil. Ned's eyes widen in disbelief. This isn't some cheap skill copy. He's facing the real deal. Only two people were taught this art, his senior brother and himself. So, who the hell is this guy? Jinryong, Master of the East, rank 9 demon god worshipper, crossed the entire continent to spread his power. Hundreds of apprentices tried to learn the Dragon King style, but only 2 inherited its core. Jin Gang, the biological son, and Ned Stryer, the outsider he picked up from the Aslan continent. The master needed exactly 2 successors to spar and refine their understanding. No more, no less. Ned's mind races. He's never seen Zephyr's face among the regular apprentices, and that's just the beginning. Zephyr obliterated a Shoggoth raised from 100 people, and Ned doesn't even know if he's a cult member anymore. Ned's mind races as he recognizes the style, realizing Zephyr isn't just some random miner. The memory hits hard. Ned Stryer, the eccentric master who taught Zephyr the Dragon King style. He's the one who pushed Zephyr to become the strongest human, whether he wanted to or not. Zephyr drops the bomb. He's the Shadow Disciple, a hidden card trained to replace the official successor. It's a brutal tradition. Once the heir is safe, the Shadow gets killed to prevent any power struggles. But Zephyr's situation is unique. He can't reach the temple because Altair and her comrades are tied up. He smirks, knowing Altair is probably busy with something unbecoming of a princess right now. Ned isn't buying it, claiming he contacted the master and was told no disciple was sent. He's ready to eliminate Zephyr on the slightest suspicion, his hand crackling with power. But Zephyr just smiles, revealing his true orders: hide his identity and take over Ned's mission if anything happens. Zephyr just smiles and calls out Ned's entire plan. He's going to run away with the Dragon Heart. But then Zephyr drops the real bomb. Whatever Ned can do, he can do too. He leans in close and whispers something that makes Ned's blood run cold. He knows about the blood tears. That's the stolen treasure of Ned's family. The only weapon that can help him reclaim his honor from the temple. And somehow, Zephyr knows about it. Ned has no choice. He's forced to lead Zephyr to somewhere secret. They arrive at an abandoned building near the temple. The perfect place for a cult to meet under the cover of darkness. Inside, Ned introduces Zephyr to his brothers as the last member, claiming the master sent him to assist. The cult leader Matthias Grimmer welcomes Zephyr, calling him young brother, and telling him to be honored to assist the successor of the Master of the East. Here's the real kicker. All 40 slave rank nominees for the raid party are actually demon god worshippers. Zephyr realizes he's found exactly what he was looking for. The entire cult hidden within the raid party, and now he's one of them. Zephyr's mind reels at the absurdity. 40 elite warriors, all demon god worshippers, and he's one of them now. These aren't the weakling Sahaku relied on, or the desperate past version of himself. This is a completely different breed of monster. An elite force forged specifically for this mission, each member stronger than anything he's faced since returning. Zephyr's expression hardens as he realizes the scale of what he's walking into. Ned's mind races. The master revealing himself means he doesn't fully trust Ned anymore. Blood tears, confidential information. The master's secrets are being shared with someone else now. A flashback hits hard, the master's promise. Become important and your revenge will be fulfilled. Ned clenches his fist. He needs the master for revenge, and that means getting the dragon heart no matter what. But if Zephyr's the shadow disciple groomed to replace him, then yeah, he might be aiming for Ned's neck. Escort group protects Brother Ned's escape route, while the attack group takes on Knight Captain Lucius. Ned turns Zephyr with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Since they share the same mission, shouldn't they be in the same group? Zephyr plays along, accepting the hand offer. Better to keep a potential enemy close than let them lurk in the shadows. But Ned's about to learn the hard way what happens when you believe in the wrong person while blinded by revenge. Ned thinks he's playing the long game, calling Zephyr loyal and patient while plotting his manipulation. He's convinced himself that turning Zephyr into an ally will help him survive whatever disaster is coming. But he's forgetting one crucial detail. Ned tries to test Zephyr by asking if he knows his mission, thinking he's got the upper hand in this twisted game. Zephyr knows the brutal math of this world. Out of everyone who steps into the abyss, only a few ever make it back. Enter Lucius, the Temple Knight captain and party leader, a man whose presence alone screams main character energy. The next day, the official raid roster drops for the Tome of the Abominable Princess, a dungeon that sounds like a nightmare fuel generator. Before he can join the Knights, Zephyr has some loose ends to tie up in the mines. He didn't just clear his dead. He soloed the Black Steel Spider, the Cockatrice Nest, and even forged a Goblin Den just to hit his quota. The miners are absolutely losing their minds with gratitude, treating him like a literal savior for getting them off the bottom rung. With 40 slaves drafted for the raid, Zephyr tells his crew they're getting promoted, basically handing them a golden ticket. One blonde miner tries to speak up, but the words die in his throat when he realizes just how far above them Zephyr really is. He thinks he's too weak to follow, convinced that people like him don't deserve to walk in the shadow of a god. Zephyr shuts that down instantly, telling him that as long as he trains until his body breaks, he'll be promoted. It's a promise that one day this weakling will be strong enough to stand right beside him, and that's when he's allowed to follow. Zephyr looks at his 3 new recruits with genuine satisfaction. These are the 2 people who should be dead by now, but they're alive and ready. Their shining eyes tell him everything he needs to know. He didn't make a mistake betting on them, even if they're as good as dead in 3 years. If the demon god worshippers succeed in their summoning, everyone including these guys will lose their lives. So Zephyr has exactly 3 years to get his hands on the dragon heart. Mercedes asks if he likes the equipment she procured, and Zephyr confirms they're good, exactly what he ordered. She chose blunt weapons that conduct mana well because the tomb of the abominable princess is crawling with living skeletons. These undead don't feel pain and their bodies are made of sturdy bones, making blade attacks that cut flesh and draw stamina through bleeding completely obsolete. To defeat a skeleton, you need to break them with blunt weapons. So, Zephyr buys all the high-quality weapons on display. But among all those weapons, Zephyr particularly likes the Twilight Longsword, an artifact from a knight 100 years ago with unknown energy flowing through it. Mercedes is confused because using a longsword against skeletons isn't very effective. But she doesn't know what Zephyr's really worried about in this dungeon. The real threats aren't mere skeletons. It's the Temple of Light trying to end the 10-year dungeon clearing attempt, and the demon god worshippers jumping into the fray for their cult survival. Zephyr must push through them all to obtain the Dragon Heart, which means the entire party is his enemy. And there's one more thing. Ned still doesn't trust him yet, which complicates everything. Even if Zephyr tells him the truth, it won't be easy to convince him, especially when their goals might conflict. If he fails to persuade Ned and they end up fighting, it won't just end in the middle this time like it did before. Just as Zephyr was about to head out, a knock at the door signals the arrival of Angelia. She's a top-tier enchanter from the temple, and she gets straight to work on Zephyr's gear. With the enchantments done, Zephyr thanks her, looking more than ready to face whatever's in that dungeon. Anna seems a little flustered by his thanks, but Zephyr drops a bombshell that kills the mood instantly. He tells them he's got absolutely 0 gold left, having spent it all on previous ventures. It's a bold move, basically telling 2 high-ranking temple members that he's broke after asking for a favor. But Zephyr wasn't bluffing about having nothing. He just has something far more valuable than gold. He pulls out vials of Persephone's deadly poisons, legendary substances that are basically currency in the underworld. Angelia completely forgets the price and starts begging him to sell them to her right then and there. Angelia's begging turns into a full-blown negotiation. And Zephyr? He's enjoying every second of watching her squirm. But she's not just a buyer. She's a player in this game, and she knows the underworld better than most. She warns him about a contact called Mole, who's too dangerous to deal with. Zephyr walks out with his bag full of gold, and her desperate pleas echoing behind him. She's already planning his return before he's even left the building. The next morning brings a sight that makes Zephyr's solo dungeon runs look like a picnic. 100 soldiers, temple knights and healers, lined up in perfect formation. Even the commanders are impressed by the turnout. When you need this many people, you know the target isn't just a dungeon, it's a war zone. The order is given. The army moves out, and Zephyr's about to walk into the biggest operation he's ever seen. But here's the thing about armies. They're only as strong as their weakest link. 86 elite soldiers split into 2 distinct units, a vanguard for the heavy lifting and a rear guard for support. They're led by 4 captains, but the real power sits at the top. Sir Lucius, the Saint of Light himself. While the army worships the ground he walks on, Zephyr just grits his teeth, seeing a threat where everyone else sees a savior. Lucius preaches about glory, but Zephyr knows the real game is far more cynical. He's seen it all before. These aren't holy crusades. They're massive business ventures designed to clear land for investors. Soldiers bleed and die so the rich can build cities on the newly secured land and reap the profits. So Zephyr gets to work, turning a training session with golems into a masterclass in efficiency. He and Dale move like a single unit, dismantling 500 stone constructs with terrifying speed. The mission is a complete success, leaving the commanders shocked that their slaves are outperforming everyone else. 500 stone golems later, and the Vanguard's training ground looks like a demolition zone. Zephyr and Dale move like they've been fighting together for years, not weeks. The commanders are starting to wonder if they made a huge mistake calling these guys slaves. Healer Arya steps in with a smile that says, "I'm about to work miracles." 2 weeks of training compressed into 4 weeks worth of progress. That's not healing, that's cheating. Training wraps up on the final night. Tomorrow, they march to the dungeon. The commanders are impressed, but they should be terrified of what these two are actually capable of. Zephyr offers Dale a drink. This'll warm you up. That's not alcohol. That's a peace offering wrapped in a threat. Dale finally asks the question he's been dying to ask. How much do you know about me? 2 weeks of watching each other like predators, and now the mask comes off. Dale spills it all, The blood tears, his family's stolen treasure, his master's mission for revenge. He thought only 2 people knew the secret. Now, he's not so sure. Zephyr's response is perfect. I'll tell you when I judge you're trustworthy. He's playing the long game, and Dale can't tell if he's being threatened or recruited. Dale realizes something's wrong. This guy was trying to kill him blind 2 weeks ago, and now he's acting like they're old friends. What the hell changed? Dale's mind races. At first, Zephyr was trying to kill him. Now, they're sitting on castle walls like old buddies. 2 weeks together changed everything. Zephyr drops the bomb. You should be asking where the blood tears is and who has it. He knows. He actually knows where Dale's entire life's mission is hiding. Dale sits alone on the wall, processing everything. This guy could have destroyed him a dozen times over, but instead, he's been building something. Zephyr approaches with a simple question. You're not eating today either? That's not small talk. That's the beginning of an alliance. And Dale has no idea what he's getting into. Zephyr isn't just offering a meal, he's offering a seat at the table. And Dale is too stubborn to realize it. Dale turns it down, obsessing over weight to maximize acceleration. Because apparently, being a genius speedster means eating like a bird. Zephyr doesn't argue. He just decides to starve too. Because if Dale crashes and burns, Zephyr is the one who has to finish the job. Then comes the real offer. Zephyr pulls out the blood tears, the very thing Dale has been chasing, proving he holds all the cards. The Temple of Light isn't just a church. It's a bank that sold financial poison to the desperate. They lured people like my father into loans, then left them penniless when the bubble burst. And the man who pushed my father over the edge? Priest Alden Lasker. I've stayed alive just to tear him down. While Lucius was busy clearing a dungeon, the real power players were moving into the third parish. Bishop Alfonso was practically begging for help, his combatants all gone. Enter the Temple Knights from the capital, Aldine's personal army. And the man behind them? Cardinal Aldine Lasker himself, smiling like he just won the lottery. But Aldine's greed didn't stop at the temple. He had his eyes on the Stryer family heirloom, the demonic sword, blood, tears. He played the role of a mentor, telling Leonard he'd inherit the barony and the sword's legacy. Except Aldine was already calculating the return on his investment. That sword was the prize. When Leonard realized the trap, he went berserk, screaming that he only put up his title as collateral, not the sword. Aldine just laughed it off, coldly stating that, without the title, Leonard had no authority over the sword anymore. That's the Temple of Light for you. They don't just take your money, they take your legacy, your honor, and leave you with nothing but rage. Leonard's rage boiled over, but his blade met a wall of holy light he couldn't even scratch. The bishop's son didn't even break a sweat, casually stepping on Leonard's head to remind him that a commoner's honor means nothing here. That was the Temple of Light for you. They don't just take your money, they take your legacy, your honor, and leave you with nothing but rage. 12 years ago, this kind of cruelty was just business as usual. The dungeon bubble burst, fake guilds ran off with the cash, and families like Leonard's were left with nothing but debt. Broken and desperate, Leonard spent years searching for the blood tears, his family's legendary sword, hoping it would be the key to his revenge. But when he finally found it, it wasn't in the hands of a hero. It was in the hands of the very people who destroyed him. Zephyr dropped the bombshell that shattered Leonard's world. The leader of the demon god cult and half his 12 apostles are actually high-ranking priests of the Temple of Light. Leonard froze. The people he hated were the same people he was supposed to trust. It was a betrayal so deep it made his head spin. And Zephyr wasn't done. He told Leonard that the promise of revenge from his master was a lie from the start. The master plans to offer the dragon heart to the cult leader. If that happens, Leonard will never get close enough to touch a hair on his body. They were deceived from the start. The man Leonard considered family was using him as a pawn in a game he didn't even know he was playing. Leonard stands frozen as the truth crashes down. His entire life was a carefully laid trap. Meanwhile, the Temple Knights finally reach the tomb of the Abominable Princess, one of the world's 8 greatest mysteries. An elder warrior laughs with glee. This ominous atmosphere is exactly what he's been waiting for. The massive doors creak open, flooding the entrance with blinding light as the real challenge begins. Their leader reminds everyone this dungeon has been their white whale for a decade. No one's made it to the bottom. The first floor shows purification tools, proof they've cleared and sanctified this section before. 9 floors deep they go, and in their last raid they pushed all the way to the 7th. But even after killing the 8th floor's gatekeeper, something from the bottom keeps pumping out monsters. Skeletons with glowing green eyes rise from the darkness. Death itself won't stay dead in this place. A warrior draws his blade with a grin. Time to see if this dungeon can handle what they've got. Zephyr grips the wheel, and the entire dungeon shudders beneath his touch. The ruins are alive and moving. The raiders freeze as the walls shift and the floor cracks. They're trapped inside a living tomb. Then the dead rise. Thousands of skeletons scream as they swarm the knights, turning the raid into a meat grinder. The knights swing until their arms bleed, but there's no end to the skeletons. They just keep coming. Then the ground splits open and a bone golem rises. Hundreds of skeletons fused into one unstoppable monster. Behind it, the skeleton mage channels green energy through an ancient tombstone, the source of their endless power. But the saint doesn't hesitate. She channels the spear of brilliant light and obliterates the tombstone in one strike. The raiders watch in stunned silence. It took them 30 minutes to destroy one stone, and she did it instantly. That's the power of equipment worth 2 million gold, and the saint wields it like it's nothing. The knights cheer as they clear the floor and set up camp. They think they've won, but they're just resting. While they sleep, Zephyr slips past them like a shadow. He's not here to camp. He's here to finish the raid. While the knights set up their camp, Zephyr's already slipped past them like a ghost, hunting for the secret passage that leads straight to the boss room. Back at camp, the temple knights are arguing over strategy. Lucius says it'll take 6 days to clear every tombstone, but someone suggests taking shortcuts instead. Lucius shuts that down hard. They tried shortcuts a year ago, reached the boss room entrance, and got slaughtered by an undead army crawling out of secret passages. Countless lives were lost that day, and now they're determined to eliminate every variable, even if it means grinding through every single monster on their route. Their entire strategy hinges on conserving Captain Lucius's stamina and magic for the gatekeeper, the real boss guarding the final room. But all their careful planning goes to hell when a Shoggoth, one of the most terrifying dungeon monsters, bursts out of nowhere and starts tearing through their ranks. The knights scream for healers, for anyone to save them, as this amorphous nightmare rips through their formation like they're not even armed. They had 5 Shoggoths prepared as part of their strategy, but this isn't the time to use them. Someone must have triggered it early, and now they're paying the price. In the chaos, all 4 squad leaders freeze and look in the same direction. Not at the Shoggoth, but at something far worse coming their way. The strong always have a danger sensor more sensitive than anyone else's, and right now, all 4 of them are screaming at once. Meanwhile, Zephyr's hand slides open a hidden passage. He's found the shortcut they were too scared to take, and he's not wasting a second. The squad leaders freeze as their danger sensors scream about something that makes the Shoggoth look like a house pet. While they're having a collective breakdown, Zephyr's already found the hidden passage, because apparently shortcuts are just lying around for people brave enough to look. But the real problem isn't the monsters ahead, it's what's waiting for him at the end of that tunnel. Then the masked figure steps out, and suddenly the dungeon's power levels aren't just broken, they're begging for mercy. That's not just an aura, that's the kind of presence that makes gods check their resumes before showing up. And the blonde woman behind him? She's smiling like she just remembered why she enjoys watching civilizations burn. The battlefield explodes as warriors who thought they were ready for anything realize they're about to get deleted. But the real punchline? The person who set this whole trap up isn't even the one pulling the strings. Zephyr's about to discover that the biggest threat to his mission isn't the monsters or the knights, it's the person he trusted to get him here. Ned Streer, the demon god disciple, thinks he's being clever by planning to steal the dragon heart and run. But Zephyr just drops a bomb. If Ned tries that, he's dead. The only way to survive is for them to clear the boss together. Ned's about to blow up at this bullshit, but Zephyr just sits back like he's about to share the most amazing plan ever. Flashback to the day before the raid. The boss room gate is locked tight with magic that gets stronger the deeper you go. Rich Knight Captain Lucius rented the Pope's legendary Stake of Faith to jam the door shut. A divine artifact that can't be destroyed. The real plan? Awaken the Shoggoths, biological weapons that get stronger by devouring magic and corrupting minds. The captains have magical resistance, but the normal priests will lose their minds when 5 Shoggoths hit them. Chaos guaranteed. They even got special drugs to temporarily disable the slave's brand, so the priests won't be able to control them during the chaos. Ned gets handed Hypnosis Ocarina, supposed to protect against Shoggoth corruption and help with escape. Zephyr takes it with a smirk that says he already knows exactly how this is going to play out. He's thankful for all these healers, because when the Shoggoths go wild, he's going to need every bit of chaos to clear this dungeon solo. The moment that melody hits the air, the dungeon itself seems to hold its breath in terror. The Shoggoths don't just wake up, they explode into existence. A tidal wave of purple eyes and teeth that instantly swallows the squad whole. The knights are scrambling to form a defensive circle, desperate for the healers to purify the swarm. But Zephyr isn't defending. He's sprinting away from the chaos, heading straight for the wall while they panic. He stops at a massive wheel, asking them what they're looking at like he's the only one who knows the rules of this game. With a simple turn, the floor groans and the walls begin to slide, revealing a protective mechanism that hasn't moved in 3 years. The entire tomb starts to restructure itself, shifting every single stone to create a labyrinth that separates the monsters from the knights. Zephyr stands atop the moving debris, casually explaining that he knows this layout because he's already survived this nightmare once before. The knights realize this silver-haired man is the slave who cleared a cockatrice nest alone, making them wonder if he's a demon god worshipper. They don't care about his reputation. They just see a slave brand and try to force him to stop with a command he can't refuse. Zephyr ignores their commands and dives straight through the battlefield, because a slave brand doesn't mean shit when you've already died once. Matthias realizes this isn't a normal slave. He's moving like someone who's already memorized every trap in this death trap. The knight captain channels divine lightning into his blade, screaming for the goddess's power to stop this insolent bastard in his tracks. But before that holy strike can land, a whip sword tears through the air and severs Matthias's arm, courtesy of Ned Streer, who just decided the knights were the real enemy. That's an urumi, a flexible eastern blade that looks like a belt until it wraps around your neck and rips you apart. Ned's eyes are dead calm as he holds the severed weapon, because betraying the Temple Knights was always part of his demon god agenda. He blocks Matthias's counterattack but warns Zephyr there's one more lightning strike coming. He's buying time, not saving lives. Matthias unleashes everything, a lightning storm that should vaporize anyone caught in its range, the kind of attack that ends careers. But Zephyr moves through it like he's dancing, slipping between bolts that should have turned him into ash. Matthias can't believe his eyes. This isn't skill. This is impossible. Like the universe itself is refusing to let the slave die. Zephyr's hand glows with golden energy because he just activated strong luck, a blessing that makes probability itself bend to his will. This is one of 3 uses of the goddess of luck's favor, and he's burning it right now because surviving a knight's ultimate attack requires more than just reflexes. The gods gifted him regression perks as support, but Zephyr already knew about them. He checked the moment he woke up in the past. When he saw strong luck on his perk list, a strategy flashed through his mind like lightning. He's been planning to use this exact moment since day 1, because he knows the tomb's protective mechanism reassembles the dungeon itself, and surviving long enough to reach the boss room requires every advantage he can get. Matthias steps forward with his full squad, golden armor gleaming, as he demands answers from the man who just survived a goddess-level attack. The blonde commander's eyes burn with suspicion, asking if Zephyr has anything to say for himself after pulling off the impossible. Zephyr smirks says it all. Why Waste words when your lightning-charged sword does the talking. This man just activated strong luck, and he's not backing down. The plan looks solid on paper, but there's a problem nobody mentioned: credibility. Zephyr's already 3 steps ahead of everyone in this room. He asks the obvious question: who could possibly catch him if he runs with the Dragon Heart? The Dragon King style makes him faster than anyone's counting on. But here's the kicker: the Dragon Heart can kill you if you absorb it wrong. Even the experts can't handle it alone, which means someone needs to help. Turns out Cardinal Aldine Lasker was the carrier all along, and now he's dead. The whole operation was a setup from the start. The entire demon god cult is coming after them. Twin Knights, the sect leader, everyone. If Zephyr tries to run, he's facing the 10 strongest people on the continent. Green energy explodes through the dungeon as Zephyr demonstrates exactly why he's not afraid of the entire cult. He's already proven he can handle their best. Instead of running, he's proposing something insane. Take the Dragon Heart directly to the cult leader himself. Matthias thinks he's lost his mind, but Zephyr's got a point. The Temple of Light is already suspicious because the carrier stands out too much. Sometimes, the best defense is a completely unexpected offense. Ned Stryer confirms Zephyr's intel was spot on. Cardinal Aldine Lasker isn't just a knight, he's a high-ranking executive of the demon god cult. That revelation shatters Ned's entire worldview, realizing he's been a pawn in a scam that ruined his life for decades. Rage takes over completely, and he unleashes a thunderous explosion that obliterates the pursuing Temple Knights in a single, unforgivable strike. But Matthias screams for him to stop, knowing that wasting time on revenge means failing the mission and losing the Dragon Heart forever. They sprint through the corridor, but a massive, corrupted skull monster blocks the exit, its green aura radiating pure malice. With the timer ticking down, they push their bodies to the absolute limit, racing against a deadline that could mean instant death. The beast awakens fully, its eyes glowing with a sinister purple light as it prepares to sever their escape route. It swings a massive sword wreath in dark energy, a strike powerful enough to cleave the entire dungeon in half. Matthias screams for them to jump, and they barely clear the devastating slash, landing just as the timer hits 0, and their luck runs out. The walls were closing in, but Zephyr spotted the only gap that mattered: the path to the boss room. They threw themselves through the opening just as the countdown hit 0, collapsing onto the cold stone floor. They made it, but the room was empty save for a glowing obelisk, and the silence was louder than any monster's roar. Ned looked around, confused, asking where the boss was, but the answer was already drifting through the air. A spectral figure materialized, the abominable princess herself, demanding to know who dared interrupt her slumber. Outside, the knights were celebrating, thinking they'd crushed the Shoggoths and secured the dungeon. But Matthias froze when he realized his forced command had failed. Zephyr had nullified the slave's brand right in front of him. He connected the dots. The sudden monster waves, the missing brand, the escape, it all pointed to demon god worshippers hiding in plain sight. When he asked who the escapees were, the name Zephyr came up, recommended by Ned, a subordinate of Sir Matthias himself. Matthias stood frozen as the pieces clicked together. The missing brand, the monster waves, the impossible escape. His subordinates had fled, leaving him to clean up the mess while Zephyr and Ned vanished into the shadows. That perfect plan. His ticket to power in the demon god cult and glory in the Temple of Light, shattered by 2 bastards. But Matthias wasn't done. His voice cut through the chaos as he ordered his brothers to cease the operation and get ready. That green glow in his eye wasn't hope. It was the cold certainty of a man who'd already decided who dies tonight.
The history books lied through their teeth about Princess Eurydica. Her sorrowful eyes and beauty were just a basic illusion designed to lure prey. The moment that god stepped on the magic circle, he triggered a trap-type spell. She missed her first bite, but now she's ready to feast on their souls. Lucius doesn't panic. He counters the monster's massive claws with his own dark energy. He deploys the Dark Hand skill, summoning red and blue hands to drain stamina and magic. Thanks to his previous life's intel, he knows exactly how to counter her endless recovery. But he's not done! He just unlocked a new perk from the god of loans, Usra! Outside, the traitor Matthias rallies his forces, demanding to know why Lucius is ruining their 10-year plan. Lucius demands to know when Matthias sold his soul to the enemy side. Matthias knows Lucius isn't an idiot and is just trying to buy time with his interrogation. The dungeon structure has changed, trapping them, and failure means execution by the demon god cult. Matthias knows he's trapped. Kill Lucius now or face execution by the demon god cult. But he's not bluffing. He's got hidden brothers on the other side of the dungeon. He slips a drug to his ally, designed to temporarily break the slave's brand's control. Matthias calls for a duel, stalling as he counts down. 3, 2. But Lucius just smirks and triggers the slave's brand, forcing Matthias's own men to attack. His allies scream they're not doing this willingly, but the saint's command overrides everything. Matthias explodes in rage, calling his men useless dimwits as they turn on him. Lucius coldly explains the saint's orders override all other commands, even personal loyalty. And the kicker? They've been friends since academy. 20 years of trust, now weaponized against him. Matthias Grimmer snaps, rejecting his humanity to embrace a terrifying demonification form. The Temple Knights try to rally, buffing their stats by 120% with a holy chant. But Matthias just laughs, calling their desperate assault completely useless. While chaos reigns, Zephyr and Ned Strier launch a calculated countercharge. Zephyr smirks, confirming his prediction that the enemy skill would expire in 15 seconds. Zephyr shouts the exact timing, dodging the thorny explosion to climb the beast. They strike in perfect sync, one with fire and the other with lightning. Ned swings his Twilight longsword, channeling pure light attribute power. Zephyr reflects that victory isn't just about foresight, but accumulated preparation. He knows that trust items and an unshakable mentality are what truly win fights. Channeling everything he's built, Zephyr unleashes the Dragon King style's Cloud Dragon Ascension. Zephyr's Cloud Dragon Ascension didn't kill the Shoggoth, it just made it angry. The monster's writhing form shifts, shedding its disguise to reveal something far more terrifying. But Zephyr isn't panicking. He's grinning because he was waiting for this exact moment. What emerges from the Shoggoth's maw isn't a monster. These insects grant their hosts insane combat power, with the Demon God's brand engraved on the worm's shell instead of the human. This loophole lets worshippers hold dual positions as both temple priests and demon god servants, breaking the one god rule. A golden armored figure with flowing hair appears, calling Matthias a letdown for trusting him with demon god infiltrators. The captain's chains bind Matthias completely, his sword strikes never even landing before he's utterly dominated. Matthias realizes the crushing gap between a saint and a mere mortal, questioning if this is God's fate for him. But Matthias refuses to accept defeat, spitting blood as he clenches a glowing red orb in his fist. If this is his fate, then he'll change it, his eyes burning with desperate defiance against divine judgment. He summons the Twilight Longsword, a magic blade that shifts between light and dark power, the ultimate weapon for a non-priest to challenge a saint. The Inquisitor has transformed into a monstrous winged beast, radiating pure malice. Zephyr! Screams Ned's name, knowing this is the moment they've been waiting for. Ned reveals the Inquisitor's fatal flaw. It can't move or use skills while transforming. Ned channels his power, aiming to strike during that brief window of vulnerability. Ned summons the Stake of Faith, a legendary artifact that reacts to pure evil. The stake pierces the Inquisitor, releasing divine energy that burns away its corruption. Zephyr knows the stake will deal most of the damage, but they must prevent the Inquisitor from pulling it out. Ned is stunned. Zephyr's plan feels like it was made by someone who sees everything from above. The Inquisitor roars, its body convulsing as it begins its second, more terrifying transformation. Its eyes glow red, and the air crackles with an ancient, forbidden power. Zephyr and Ned launch a combined assault, their weapons crackling with lightning and fire. Their strikes hit the Inquisitor, but there's no slashing feel. Something is wrong. The Inquisitor is caught in a space distortion, the ancient magic of Medea warping reality itself. Reality warps as the Inquisitor's speed breaks the sound barrier, but Zephyr isn't even blinking. The beast dives for Ned's throat, moving faster than the eye can track, but it's a trap. Ned barely registers the blur before Zephyr slams the brakes on the entire fight. He unleashes the Queen Spider's web, binding the winged monster in a cocoon of pure mana. The Inquisitor screams as the binding tightens, but that's just the warm-up act. Purple energy explodes outward as the Inquisitor calls out to Georgius, summoning a knight from the void. Ned panics, asking what the hell this is, because this isn't in the guidebook. Zephyr realizes the timeline shifted because he didn't follow the past route, creating a brand new boss mechanic. A massive golden cross materializes out of thin air, radiating holy power that burns the Inquisitor's own aura. The Inquisitor stands atop the weapon, turning the holy symbol into a throne of destruction. His eyes glow with a terrifying red intensity, signaling that the boss is about to go into a full rage mode. Zephyr and Ned combine their lightning and fire, launching a desperate assault to break the cross. The Inquisitor's body cracks under the pressure, but the real danger is the energy building up behind him. The Inquisitor's blood forms a blasphemous cross, but Zephyr's already seen worse. Suddenly, an angel with glowing wings appears, demanding answers about Zephyr's dark symbol. Zephyr just smirks. He casts bait and caught a holdfish, not just a minnow. Zephyr screams, "Come here!" and charges with mana-reinforced fists. He realizes the angel's space defense is invincible until she attacks, then it's open season. Eurydica's thorned wings flare with red energy, but Zephyr's already inside her guard. The attack connects. Eurydica thinks she's won, but she just activated her own death sentence. Her black mirror reflects 300% damage back, but Zephyr's got a trick up his sleeve. Dark Hand erupts from nowhere, shattering her reflection and sending her screaming into oblivion. Zephyr slams his thunderclap palm into the beast, channeling pure lightning to overload her system. He strikes the meridians, blocking the mana flow completely with a technique from the east. With her movement frozen, he slaps sticky webs onto her wings, securing the kill. But the beast screams and her eye flares red. She just breaks the seal like it's paper. Zephyr realizes he can't kill her in time, so he grabs his rosary of miracles to heal Ned instead. He curses as the pressure points vanish in seconds, realizing this monster is on a whole other level. Thorns erupt around him, and Eurydica detonates a sphere of pure energy that wipes out the room. Zephyr stands in the smoke, breathing hard, muttering that this is a twisted situation. The explosion tears through the dungeon, leaving nothing but fire and silence. Meanwhile, Angelia drops her tea, the shockwave from the dungeon reaching her even here. She kneels in silence, her usual composure cracking as she prays for his safety. A system message flashes in her vision, warning her that her favorite customer is in deep trouble. Even Angelia feels the shockwave, regretting she didn't give Zephyr better gear for this nightmare. Zephyr's fighting rhythm is completely broken. He's being dragged into the enemy's pace, and it's brutal. Every weapon, every potion, every piece of defense he prepared, all destroyed. He's staring at absolute zero. His wall of iron skill? It's sponsored by the god of loans, Usra. Damage accumulates as debt and hits all at once when mana runs dry. The Sword of Light demands impossible stats. Revive chains his soul to the gods, and his perks are either traps or useless in combat. These aren't gifts, they're leashes. The gods just want entertainment, watching him despair while surrounded by false hope. A dark figure looms over him, red energy crackling. This is where plans crumble and death waits. But if he's going to die here anyway, Zephyr's about to do something that'll make even the gods sit up and pay attention. Zephyr wakes from a terrifying dream, telling the princess he is her successor. But he's not just talking, he's drawing a symbol that the gods marked as absolute taboo. He knows the rules. Finish the drawing, and the world's principal kills him instantly. Suddenly, an angel descends, demanding to know how a human knows this divine secret. He treats the angel's interrogation like a paid consultation, shocking the celestial being. The angel gets serious, charging up divine energy to erase him for the gods. Zephyr just dares her to do it, claiming she can't kill him without consequences. He's betting his life on the fact that the gods have a specific plan for him. He read the fine print on his regression perks. If he dies, the gods lose their investment. That's why the gods are terrified of him finishing that symbol right now. The angel breaks, sweating and asking what he wants, realizing Zephyr holds all the cards. Zephyr's bleeding out, screaming at the gods to give him more power, or he'll just die here. He calls their bluff, telling them if they lose him now, they'll never find another human to entertain them. The goddess of light finds this absolutely hilarious, laughing at this mortal who thinks he can threaten divine beings. Suddenly, divine energy crashes down like a cosmic download, and Zephyr realizes something massive just unlocked. He emerges from the light, completely healed, asking that hooded figure if they waited long like he's been expecting this. The sword of light materializes in his hand, a divine artifact made from primordial light with all usage restrictions removed. Goddess Arya, one of the three great gods, apologizes for only giving him scraps before and promises even better artifacts from her treasury. The god of death freaks out, demanding to know how Arya lets some human wield a divine artifact so easily. But Archerus, the god of sky, just shrugs it off, admitting he was thinking he did something unbecoming of a great god anyway. But the god of sky, Archerus, isn't buying the death god's act. He suspects something fishy is going down with Zephyr. He declares that until he knows what death is plotting, Zephyr is off limits, effectively turning the divine realm into a playground. With a clash of lightning and shadow, Arcarius intercepts the Grim Reaper's strike, proving that even gods have their favorites. The Death God tries to warp reality, but Zephyr isn't waiting for a divine intervention, he's bringing the heat himself. He channels the Sword of Light's exclusive skill, ignoring the fact that human magic shouldn't be able to block a divine artifact. He screams, "Yehi-or! Let there be light," and unleashes a blinding beam that shatters the darkness and forces the gods to blink. As the dust settles, the dark corruption vanishes, revealing the stunning, ethereal beauty of Eurydica's true form. Zephyr checks on her, realizing the Yehi-or skill didn't just blast enemies, it completely scrubbed the curse from her soul. She's finally free, but with the gods watching and the death god still lurking, this victory is just the calm before the storm. Georges kneels before Princess Eurydica, presenting the black dragon Kaiserus' heart after his legendary victory. But Eurydica cuts through the ceremony, demanding he call her by name, not "my princess." She's not that person anymore. She reveals the truth. She's been trapped for 1,000 years, using the dragon heart's magic circle to extend her life while losing her human form. As she fades, she asks Zephyr one final question. Why does he want the dragon heart? Zephyr knows words won't cut it. There's not enough time to explain everything. Instead, he offers her something far more powerful. Read his memories directly. Eurydica activates her communion skill, touching him to experience his emotions and memories firsthand. Suddenly, she's flooded with visions of Zephyr's past, dragon battles, destroyed cities, and the faces of those he's lost. She witnesses his entire tragic journey, from fighting monsters to watching companions die, understanding why he needs the dragon heart. Meanwhile, Lucy's locked in a brutal fight against a dark energy demon that's way out of his league. The demon's having the time of its life, mocking Lucci's desperate panic while he's getting absolutely destroyed. But here's the nightmare. The moment that dark energy touches Lucci, his strengthening buff from Arno just vanishes. The demon's feeling like a god, experiencing omnipotence, and loving every second of this power rush. Then, the demon unleashes a massive fire explosion that's about to turn everything into ash. While the demon rages, a hooded priest sees his chance to kill fellow knights and earn a stone of revelation. But his dark plan backfires instantly as branded worms burst from his own body, tearing him apart from the inside. Lucci activates his exclusive seizure skill, sucking the life force from every demon god worshipper to fuel his power. Goethe screams for everyone to maximize their defenses as the demon's next move becomes terrifyingly clear. The demon unleashes an inferno that turns the battlefield into a crematorium, incinerating everything in its path. Matthias charges through the flames, screaming at Lucci to stop committing more evil. Lucci explodes with rage, asking how Matthias of all people can call him evil. Matthias reveals the Temple of Light's entire operation was a scam that bankrupted families and drove people to suicide. With red eyes blazing, Lucy declares the Temple of Light is the true evil that must be destroyed. Suddenly, Zephyr's consciousness gets pulled into a vision showing the future he lived through. The goddess appears before him, tears streaming down her face, as she asks how he could have endured such a pitiful existence. The goddess wept at the pitiful life he endured, but Zephyr wasn't looking for sympathy. She dropped a bombshell. The demon race invasion he blocked before is coming back in just a few years. Zephyr wiped the blood from his face and made a vow he wasn't losing miserably like last time. The dragon heart is a suicide pill for anyone but a dragon slayer, so he's forcing a transplant into Georges. The goddess drops the ultimate spoiler. The demon god Tartarus doesn't play by the rules and can walk right into our world. While gods are stuck in their own territories, this demon god can be summoned directly, and the cult is trying to do exactly that. Zephyr's seen this movie before. Nobles and priests conspiring with demon god worshippers while the world burns. He didn't come back to live a good life. He came back to win, and this time he's not going down without a fight. But before Zephyr can charge in, we get a brutal flashback to the 12 heroes' last stand against their own comrade, the Black Dragon Kaiseress. Princess Eurydica, the greatest mage in history, begged a hero for the power to protect the world, and that hero made a terrible choice. That hero was Knight Georges, and what he did next would haunt Eurydica forever. Georges spent 3 years purifying the curse in the dragon heart, running mock transplants hundreds of times, all for one reason. He told Eurydica he wasn't doing this for glory or power. He wanted to leave a safe world for their child. So he begged her to trust him and transplant the dragon heart, a move that would cost him everything. The transplant begins, but instead of power, Georges is consumed by purple corruption. The demon curse is taking hold. Eurydica screams his name as her servant tries to pull her back from the deadly energy radiating from Georges. His flesh burns away, leaving only a skeleton as the curse devours him from the inside out. Eurydica recognizes the same energy that drove Kaiseress berserk. The demon curse has claimed another victim, and Zephyr's next move could change everything. The gold dragon drops a bomb. He never actually lifted the curse on the dragon heart, just made it look that way. He activates Dragon Tongue, a forbidden skill that silences anyone who knows the world's secrets. Purple energy explodes as the curse's power surges through the chamber. Eurydica tries to speak, but the dragon tongue cuts her off mid-sentence. She screams in frustration. Even after 1,000 years, that damn gold dragon is still controlling her. Eurydica breaks free and passes on her 1,000-year duty to Zephyr. She rips out Kaiseress's dragon heart from its prison, chains snapping like twigs. This is the legendary dragon heart that could make Zephyr a god if his body doesn't explode first. Eurydica can't say what she wants to due to the dragon tongue restriction, but she finds a workaround. She warns Zephyr about a moment when he'll have to choose between someone he treasures most and someone else. She tells him to get stronger in her tomb first, then she'll rearrange the dungeon so he can escape the priests. Eurydica lays out the impossible bill for the dragon heart. Hunt the red, blue, ice, and green dragons within a single year. She looks into his eyes and asks the ultimate question. Do you think you can actually do it? Zephyr just smirks, telling her she's underestimating him because a year is way too long to kill 4 dragons. He promises to accomplish the feat in half a year, so she can finally lay down her eternal duty. Hearing that, Eurydica realizes just how heavy her burden was, and for the first time, she feels true peace of mind. She apologizes and passes the duty she couldn't complete in her era over to him. With a blinding flash, the dragon heart is transplanted into his chest, and the suicidal battle god is ready to hunt. The Dragon King roars, unleashing a torrent of fire that turns a dungeon into an inferno. The knight screams as the flames consume him, his armor melting under the heat. He collapses, coughing up blood, realizing his support Arno and Leona are already dead. With no other choice, the knight decides to unleash a power that could kill him too. He grits his teeth, knowing the danger, but having no other option. Gathering all his remaining strength, he prepares to end this fight once and for all. The knight reflects on the goddess's judgment, questioning why he was chosen over the prodigy. The dragon heart is extracted, glowing with a golden light. Suddenly, the abominable princess appears, her presence commanding attention. She claims the dragon heart, calling Zephyr a new hero and paying her respects. Zephyr activates his strong luck perk, temporarily imbued with a strong aura of good luck. The dragon heart is pulled away, but Zephyr's luck holds. Suddenly, Zephyr's consciousness is pulled into a dark void, unable to see anything. He realizes he's within his own consciousness, feeling something similar to this before. Zephyr's consciousness gets yanked into a void where a massive red eye stares him down. He realizes this is Kaiseress's evil desire, the ancient dragon's consciousness still burning inside the dragon heart. Kaiseress sniffs the air and smells the gods on Zephyr, calling him another puppet sent by those persistent bastards. The ancient demon roars that Zephyr is the last one he'd ever hand his power to, and the battle for his soul begins. Meanwhile, the Inquisitor's transformation completes as he becomes a winged demon and starts counting down his kills. Temple Knights fall like wheat before a scythe. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. The Inquisitor is unstoppable. Now only Lucius remains, and the Inquisitor unleashes a massive fireball, screaming that it's his turn to die. Lucius tries the same fire attack again, but the Inquisitor just laughs and says it's too slow. The demon's claw tears through Lucius's defenses like paper, and the knight screams in agony. Lucius realizes the Inquisitor is adapting to demonic power faster than he can recover, and he's the only one taking damage. The Inquisitor lands another brutal hit, and Lucius's face contorts as blood sprays everywhere. The Inquisitor screams goodbye and launches a lightning strike to end Lucius once and for all. But wait, something penetrates the fireball and annihilates it completely. A single feather just saved Lucius's life. Just as the Inquisitor thought he had won, a single golden feather intercepts the lightning, saving Lucius's life. Lucius transforms, his wings spreading as he speaks to a vision of his future self, asking how much of his life he can borrow. 1 month isn't enough, so he bargains for half a year, his body glowing with the terrifying power of a future saint. The Inquisitor freezes, asking why a demon feels fear as a blinding holy aura engulfs the battlefield. Lucius unleashes a barrage of golden spears, overwhelming the monster's defenses and erasing it from existence. Standing over the ashes, Lucis reveals his skill, Glimpse of Glory, a secret ability that trades lifespan for power. He calls out the temple for treating saints like disposable pawns, a brutal game where they are nothing but jesters' toys. Lucius steps out of the boss room like a boss, leaving the temple knights absolutely shook. He doesn't even break a sweat, just points a finger and forces the Inquisitor's skeleton to bow using dragon tongue. Meanwhile, the surviving knights are counting their losses, realizing they barely made it out with their lives. Suddenly, a massive dragon spirit attacks, but Lucius realizes this isn't an enemy. The blinding light isn't an attack, it's the physical manifestation of his insane luck stat protecting him. He sees the dragon spirit wrapping around him like a guardian, realizing his luck is actually a sentient force. Lucius dives into his own consciousness, knowing that if he cowers here, he'll become a puppet to the dragon's will. He recalls his true identity, breaking the chains of the spirit with pure willpower and blue lightning. He unleashes a devastating strike, slicing through the dragon's defense with a blade of pure energy. He reveals this is the 5th evil desire he's fought, including ones from his previous life. Standing tall with his lightning-charged sword, he declares the dragon is nothing new to him. He tells the dragon to get beaten and absorbed, ready to educate it on who the real boss is. Zephyr's lightning-charged blade tears through the dragon's scales like wet paper, ending this 5th evil desire in one devastating strike. But as the dust settles, someone's eyes widen in absolute shock at what they're witnessing. The mysterious woman in white robes materializes, her golden energy swirling as she asks, "What in the world just happened?" Zephyr stands victorious, casually telling the dragon to just be absorbed if it's dead, because testing people's worthiness is so annoying. Ned Stria spots the boss distracted with Zephyr and thinks this is his chance to strike. But his mana's completely frozen, absorbed by that dark hand during his earlier fainting spell. Instead of attacking, he starts choking violently as something starts coming up. He spits out the branded worm he swallowed, some kind of evil fragment that was controlling him. The boss reveals she purified Ned's body. Impressed, he gained strength through hard work instead of using the worm's power. Meanwhile, the Temple Knights discover the purification device from the 5th floor, dragged all the way here. 2 days after the battle, they realize the dungeon's layout has completely changed, and they're trapped with dwindling food. The captain makes a bold call. They'll search for the stake of faith instead of trying to escape. Saint Matthias realizes the demon god cult isn't just trying to kill her, they're after the dragon heart hidden in this dungeon. If those 2 slaves escape with a stake of faith, they'll have an experienced raid party waiting for them on the outside. She's got to intercept them before they vanish, but that was the plan, right before everything went to hell. The knights discover the stake of faith is in the boss room, but there's a problem. The gatekeeper is still alive. Before they can process that nightmare, the gatekeeper unleashes a devastating purple energy blast that tears through the ranks. Matthias realizes her ultimate skill is on cooldown for 4 more days, and for the first time, she wonders if she'll ever see her family again. The gatekeeper's attack is unstoppable, crushing everything in its path as Matthias's last hope fades away. But right as the monster's about to finish the job, a familiar figure kicks open the boss room door and screams like a maniac. Zephyr drops the dragon tongue, a command so absolute it forces the Inquisitor to bow instantly. Georges is left staring in disbelief, wondering how a slave is commanding a monster like a king. The beast screams in agony as Zephyr counts down the 10 seconds of this borrowed power. But here's the catch. His dragon heart is restricted to 1% to keep him from exploding. Zephyr knows this is the worst possible matchup, but he just smirks at the incoming blade. The purple energy crashes down, but Zephyr isn't using his dragon power to block it. Instead of dragonfire, he channels the goddess of light, manifesting a divine artifact. He accepts her desperate request to save her saint, transforming into a holy avenger. A pillar of pure light obliterates the darkness, turning the tables on the demon god's forces. With a single command, the light strikes true, leaving Georgius completely baffled. Georgius recognizes the artifact immediately. It's the legendary Sword of Light used by high priests. He can't process how a demon god worshipper feels the goddess's presence so strongly. Georgius freezes, sensing pressure that reminds him of ancient dragons from his youth. The mighty knight drops to one knee, addressing Zephyr not as a heretic, but as the Exalted One. 3-day Zephyr fought Kaiserus in his mind, a war of wills that nearly broke him. When he finally opened his eyes, Eurydica had turned to ash, her sacrifice sealing the victory. He promised her she wouldn't regret her choice, not in this life, not in the afterlife. From her ashes, Zephyr inherited 2 treasures, a crystal of magic containing ancient spells and a master key to her tomb. The crystal warned him the Dragonheart's power is currently at just 1%, but his body will need complete restructuring as it grows. Eurydica's final message revealed a descendant named Altair who would aid him, and Zephyr vowed to protect the child from the gods. Georgius touched their shoulders, burning away the demon god brands that marked them as slaves. He confessed he'd spent years deep inside the cult, one of the few Temple of Light members passionate about destroying heresy. And there was Saint Lucius, the temple's ultimate weapon, built with gold stolen from people like Zephyr, someone he couldn't trust. Georgius admits he's playing a long game, using his saint status to keep the peace with the returner. But Zephyr isn't here for politics. He drops the hammer, declaring that their real dogfight starts right now. Zephyr reveals the third parish is already a nest of demon god worshippers, led by Cardinal Aldine and the terrifying Twin Knights. Georgius freezes, realizing the threat level just skyrocketed to continent-breaking territory. Since a simple battle won't cut it, Zephyr summons a massive energy barrier to seal the deal.